Chapter 17. Boom! The power of the soul-gathering pill was quite fierce. As soon as the pill entered his mouth, it melted, and a stream of hot air gushed out from his body, turning into pure spiritual energy that filled every part of his body. The roaring tiger technique was activated, and the black demonic energy continued to rapidly circulate through each of his meridians. Every time it circulated, it would refine some of the large amount of Ling Qi in his body. At the same time, his demonic energy also became stronger. Under the stimulation of the spirit-gathering pill, the demonic energy in his body circulated even faster than usual. Almost at every moment, Di Shirtian could feel the demonic energy in his body rapidly increasing. The soul-gathering pill's power was indeed enormous. Even cultivators who hadn't reached the 5th layer of Qi refining wouldn't dare to use this kind of pill. It was a pill prepared for cultivators in the middle and late stages of Qi refining. Unlike immortal cultivators, demon cultivators didn't divide the Qi refining stage into 12 layers. According to the division of the Tiger Roar art, the first 3 layers were the accumulation of demonic power, which was the same as the Qi refining stage of immortal cultivators. The 4th layer was the foundation establishment stage of immortal cultivators. Therefore, although Di Shirtian was currently at the 2nd layer, he was equivalent to a cultivator in the 5th or 6th layer of Qi refining. Once he broke through to the 3rd layer, he would be equivalent to a cultivator in the late stages of Qi refining. Furthermore, he had personally consumed the essence-gathering pill a few days ago and managed to endure it. The meridians in his body had long since become familiar with the surging medicinal power of the essence-gathering pill. Therefore, refining the essence-gathering pill this time could be said to be smooth and easy. He guarded his mind and silently refined the precious medicinal power. The demonic energy in his body rapidly increased. The roaring tiger technique was almost pushed to the limit by Di Shirtian. In the sky, countless silver particles of essence from the sun and moon seemed to be inexplicably attracted. From all directions, they converged on Di Shirtian's body in an unending stream. From his meridians and pores, they poured into Di Shirtian's tall body. The essence of the sun and moon was too much for him to absorb in a short period of time. It formed a layer of silver light outside his body, looking very magical. Not to mention, Di Shirtian was preparing to rely on the medicinal efficacy of the essence-gathering pill to accumulate demonic energy and prepare to break through his meridians at any time. However, the princess of Chu Yun and her entourage made some preparations. They brought everything they needed, including pots, plates, and all kinds of daily necessities. They were all carried by dozens of horses. In addition to the guards, there were a total of 500 people. They went into the mountains in a grandiose manner. While they were preparing, many people from the Jianghu had already entered the mountain range with dreams of treasures and adventures. Big Brother Qin, where do we go now? The princess of Chu Yun had always been in the palace, so she had never been to a place like this. Once she entered the mountain, she couldn't help but feel excited. This time, she had an ancient sword in her hand and a small pouch the size of a palm on her waist. She was dressed like a woman from the Jianghu. If not for her noble temperament, no one would believe that the person in front of them was a princess. Qin Hai said, according to the villagers, the place where the strange light was emitted a few days ago was in the middle of Tiger Hill mountain range. Therefore, I want to go to the place mentioned by the hunters to take a look. Perhaps we will find something. No, I agree. Hearing Qin Hai's words, Zheng Baichuan shook his head disapprovingly. Oh, then Brother Zheng should have a better idea. I am willing to listen. Qin Hai's eyes turned cold after being interrupted by Zheng Baichuan. He turned to look at Zheng Baichuan and said in a deep voice. The relationship between the two men following the same woman was obvious. They were both pursuing the princess of Chu Yun and were love rivals. The battle between love rivals was even more intense without smoke. Perhaps they were comparing each other's strengths with each other's words and actions. They were either trying to step on each other to elevate themselves, or trying to show off their strengths and show off their strengths. These were all common methods. Perhaps everyone knew about it, but such a scene was still incessant in this world. It was common. Qinhai and Zheng Baichuan happened to be like this. Hearing the conversation between the two, the princess of Chu Yun asked with interest, "Then what good idea does senior brother Zheng have? Tell me quickly." After saying that, she stared at Zheng Baichuan curiously. Seeing that the princess had placed her attention on him, Zheng Baichuan felt his bones go soft. He waved the scholar's fan in his hand gently a few times and said with a smile, "When I left the mountain, my father gave me some talismans that I can use now. One of them is a talisman specially used to find treasures with rich spirit chi or treasures with spirit chi. It's called the treasure-seeking talisman. In fact, whether there are treasures in this mountain range or not, as long as I use the talisman to search, it will be clear." This kind of talisman was not a very precious item in the immortal cultivation world. It was just a method to find out where there were spirit veins and treasures. It was magical, but if there were restrictions around it, even if there were treasures, it would be impossible to find them with the power of the talisman. Then why don't you use it quickly? When the princess of Chuyun heard about the talisman in the immortal cultivation world, her eyes lit up and she hurriedly urged him, "Haha, princess, don't be impatient. Watch me." When Zheng Baichuan saw that he had really attracted the princess's attention, a gentle smile appeared on his face. This kind of smile could make people have an indescribable good impression of him. He reached out and touched his waist. At a glance, one could see that he was wearing a strange little pouch like the princess of Chuyun. When he touched the pouch emitted a faint light. Then, a yellowish talisman appeared in his hand. There were some mysterious symbols on the talisman that no one could understand. It seemed to be some kind of text, but it also seemed to be some kind of pattern. After he took it out, it faintly emitted a strange kind of spiritual power. Poof! Zheng Baichuan poured the spiritual power in his body into the talisman. Then, he saw the talisman quickly fly up and turn into a ball of green light in midair. It scattered into countless green dots and fell in all directions. These green dots contain a strange power. As long as they sensed that there were items with spirit chi in the surroundings, they would instantly explode with a strong spiritual light. Seeing this kind of spiritual light, one could understand that there would definitely be treasures nearby. Specks of green light scattered in all directions like fireflies. It was magical, but when they scattered, they didn't attract anyone's attention. The power of this spirit talisman wasn't able to completely cover the entire Tiger Hill mountain range. It only covered an area of about 3 miles with their group as the center. The green light dissipated, but there was no strange phenomenon caused by the spiritual light shooting out. Zheng Baichuan smiled and shook his head. The talisman did not sense anything within 3 miles of here. There are definitely no treasures nearby. Later, when we walk out of this area, I will use the talisman to investigate. This way, we can search the entire Tiger Hill mountain range in the shortest time possible. Report. At this moment, the guard patrolling nearby suddenly rushed over. What is it? When the princess of Chu Yun saw the guards coming over, her aura quickly changed. She naturally exuded a noble aura, and the majesty of the royal family appeared on her body. Bang! The demonic power in Di Shitian's body increased. The medicinal power of the spirit-gathering pill was continuously transforming into demonic power, causing more and more demonic power to gather in the 2 open meridians. It became extremely thick and was about to completely fill up the meridians. However, the meridians in his 2 hind legs were still blocked. The place where the 2 meridians connected seemed to be blocked by a hard rock. When Sakura felt the surging demon power in his body, he tried to attack the place where the barrier was, but no matter how strong the impact of the demon power was, it couldn't shake this stubborn stone. Instead, it made the blood in his whole body roll violently. He was powerless to break through the barrier. With his previous experience, Di Shitian knew very well that as long as he broke through this barrier, it was equivalent to opening the door to the blocked meridians. If he broke through, he could smoothly advance to the 3rd level. If he did not break through, he could only remain at the 2nd level. Breaking through to the third level of the meridians is more difficult than breaking through to the second level. It seems that even if I absorb all the medicinal power of the spirit-gathering pill just now, I still won't be able to break through the barrier. A thought appeared in D. Shirtian's mind because he already felt that he had absorbed most of the power of the spirit-gathering pill in his body. This spirit-gathering pill could only fill up the 2 open meridians in his body with demonic power. It could not condense enough power to break through the barrier. Fortunately, I was prepared and brought 2 pills this time. Now that I've taken them together and guided the huge medicinal power of the spirit-gathering pill, together with the demonic power in my body, I might be able to succeed in one go and break through the barrier. His slightly closed eyes suddenly opened. He opened his mouth and sucked hard, swallowing the spirit-gathering pill into his stomach. In his eyes, there was a crazed look. In fact, he also knew that for a high-quality spirit-gathering pill, like spirit-gathering pill, taking 1 a day was already the limit for him. Because, after refining, he had to continuously temper and familiarize himself with the sudden increase in power. Only then could he steadily control and absorb it for his own use. If he exceeded this limit, it would be like eating a meal. If he ate too much, he would not be able to handle it. This was the same principle. If the body was unable to adapt to the sudden increase in power, it would hurt the body. Therefore, D. Shirtian could completely refine 1 pill a day. If he took 1 more, his body would be damaged by the sudden increase in power. Even his meridians would be damaged. D. Shirtian had inherited the spirit-gathering pill and had some understanding of this. He still wanted to take it now. First, he wanted to use this opportunity to break through the barrier in one go. As long as he succeeded, the huge amount of demonic power would enter his newly open meridians and completely connect with his whole body. It would flow continuously, and he could completely avoid the previous situation. Instead, it would greatly increase his cultivation. Chapter 18. If the first situation did not occur, then the second situation would occur. The second situation was very simple. It was just like the previous example. If a person ate too much and exceeded their appetite, then they would feel bloated. Those who had experienced it knew that once one ate too much, their entire body would feel very uncomfortable. Even walking would be difficult. Without 1 or 2 hours of time to digest the excess food, this discomfort would continue to exist. Of course, if one swallowed too many pills, the enormous medicinal power would completely exceed the limit of one's absorption. The consequences would be many times more serious than eating too much. If one's meridians were weak, then the surging medicinal power that could not be absorbed and refined in time would damage their meridians. It was even possible that their meridians would break. It would damage the body. The medicinal power that would wreak havoc in the body was not simply spiritual energy, but a powerful destructive force. Therefore, in the cultivation world, the level of one's cultivation, the type of pills one could take, and the amount of pills one could take in a day were all clearly recorded. With D. Shirtian's current cultivation, taking 1 pill was already considered moderate. If he took more, then it would be excessive. Naturally, there would be great danger. Bang! The second essence gathering pill fell into his stomach. Immediately, he felt as if the yellow river had burst its banks in his body. An enormous amount of spiritual energy surged out from his stomach uncontrollably. It also drew out the medicinal power that had not been completely refined from the first essence gathering pill. At this time, it was like adding oil to the fire. The vast amount of spiritual energy rushed into his meridians. The meridians that were originally almost completely filled with demonic power. When such an enormous amount of spiritual energy rushed in, an intense pain surged into his heart. His meridians were violently twitching. Moreover, the spiritual energy that followed was still continuously rushing into the already open meridians from all parts of his body. In almost a few breaths, all the open meridians were filled to the brim. What was even more frightening was that the spiritual energy that filled the meridians was not all demonic power that could be controlled by humans. There was also a large amount of spiritual energy, Before this spiritual energy was transformed into demonic power, it was a treasure, but it was also like a time bomb. If he did not refine it quickly and was unable to control it, then the spiritual energy would rampage in his meridians and damage them. I can hold on. I can definitely hold on. In order to break through the bottleneck, I must use this huge amount of spiritual energy to open up the blocked meridians. Tion couldn't bear the intense pain in his body. He let out a low growl, but his heart was screaming crazily. The obsession in his heart made his mind even more resolute. He gritted his teeth and held on. At the same time, his body was also rapidly circulating the roaring tiger technique, driving the spirit energy to circulate in his body. With every circulation, some spirit energy would be refined into monster energy. However, the refining speed could not compare to the enormous amount of spiritual chi that emerged from the spirit-gathering pill. The amount of spiritual chi in his meridians increased until his meridians began to distort. A lot of spiritual energy overflowed from his meridians and entered every inch of his flesh and blood. At this time, from the outside, it was another strange scene. Tion was shrouded in a thick layer of black monster energy. Around him, little bits of silver-white essence of the sun and moon, like swallows returning to their nest, continuously flowed into his body from all directions. In the black monster energy, one could faintly see that Tion's tall body was undergoing drastic changes. His originally huge body began to swell again. Slowly, his body became bigger. Boom, boom, boom. Under the guidance of Tion, the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth quickly gathered from all directions. In the blink of an eye, it formed a vortex above his head. The vortex was formed by the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. In the vortex, a large amount of spiritual chi madly poured into Tion's body. Good, it's time. This time, I must succeed in one go. Open up my meridians. Sakura could feel that the spirit chi in his body had already gathered to a peak. Moreover, the spirit chi from the outside was also continuously pouring into his body. It was already completely guaranteed that this time, as long as his body could withstand it, there was a 90% chance of successfully breaking through in one go and advancing to the new third stage of the realm. Fight! A crazed expression emerged in Tion's heart. He activated the roaring tiger technique and gathered all the monster chi in his body. At this time, the meridians in his body were like a river. Currently, this river was not smooth and could not be connected together. It was blocked by a barrier, just like a dam in a reservoir. What he wanted to do was to completely break through this barrier and shatter it. He wanted to turn a pool of stagnant water into a pool of flowing water. Then, the monster chi would be able to circulate in his meridians as he wished. At this time, the monster chi turned into an angry dragon. Wrapped in the spiritual chi in his meridians, it ferociously rushed towards the barrier leading to the meridians of his two hind legs. That checkpoint was like a big rock. Bang! The boundless demonic chi and the surging spiritual chi was like a ferocious black dragon as it heavily slammed into the barrier. The stone was abnormally strong, and the monster chi was also incomparably strong. With this collision, a terrifying force immediately erupted. The tyrannical impact immediately caused the meridians to constantly distort and show signs of breaking. Outside his body, drops of bright red blood constantly spurted out from his pores, turning his body into a blood-red color. Blood mist sprayed out from his nose and mouth. The forceful impact of the barrier caused him to be in great pain due to the impact of the spiritual chi in his body. With just this one impact, his whole body was heavily injured. Fight! Break for me! A trace of madness flashed in Tion's heart. As the saying goes, if you don't go crazy, you won't survive. At this point, once he made up his mind, he did not intend to stop. He would not give up until he achieved his goal. He gritted his teeth and endured the endless pain. He circulated Tiger Roar and gathered an even greater amount of power. His monstrous energy and spirit energy gathered together at the same time, surging and tumbling in his meridians in an endless stream. He once again raged against the barrier between his meridians and began to attack it. Bang! The second impact on the barrier was like a big rock that blocked the meridians. Under such a fierce impact, it was finally unable to completely withstand it. It began to shake and tremble violently. It seemed that it would shatter at any time. However, a large amount of various forces that scattered in his body because of the impact on the barrier began to rampage in his body again. Clouds of blood mist spurted out from his body. Once again, he was heavily injured. Again, the impact this time allowed Sakura to see hope. A deep obsession emerged in his heart. If he didn't break through the barrier, he wouldn't give up. Once again, he gritted his teeth and gathered his monster chi. With a huge force, he rushed over again. Just like that, time after time, he drove his demonic power to crazily attack the blocked meridians, causing the blockage to continuously tremble and sway, as if it would shatter at any moment. However, it stubbornly blocked in front of him, holding on and not shattering. It was incomparably tough and seemed to be on the verge of shattering, but its shattering seemed to be far away. Tiger roar technique, activate for me. At the same time of each impact, his body was bound to suffer some damage. The blood that spurted out from his body had already condensed into a thick blood mist around him. His entire body was trembling nonstop. This kind of destructive power had almost reached the limit of his body. If he continued to attack, he was afraid that he would fall first before he could break through the barrier. Knowing that things had already reached this point, and that the barrier in front of his meridians was so tough and tenacious, he could not help but have a kind of courage to cut off all means of retreat. He activated the tiger roar technique to the limit. In an instant, he saw that the vortex formed above his head spat out a large amount of spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The essence of the sun and moon also came from all directions at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was quickly used in front of him, completely covering Di Shirtion in a silver-white light. The essence of the sun and moon and the spiritual chi of heaven and earth poured in, immediately infusing a new power into Yifeng. And just at the critical moment when Di Shirtion was about to launch the final impact, his choice of breaking through on the big rock finally paid off. The rock below him suddenly seemed to have a mysterious connection with him. Waves of cool and mysterious power instantly gushed out from the rock. Wave after wave, like a fountain, rushed into Di Shirtion's body. It was the same situation as last time. Once this mysterious power entered his body, it did not join the meridians. Instead, it was like the softest water in the world, protecting the meridians that were already unable to bear the weight. Under this power, the meridians that were already in pain were like a mentally exhausted person who suddenly soaked in a hot spring. There was an indescribable comfort. The meridians that had already cracked were quickly healing. Feeling that the mysterious power in the rock was finally activated, Di Shirtion had no more worries in his heart. Using his cultivation method, he quickly condensed the essence of the sun and moon, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, the spiritual chi of the spirit-gathering pill in his body, his own demonic power, and several other forces together under his great perseverance, turning into an incomparably ferocious black dragon. Carrying an aura of either success or failure, they madly rushed towards the level that was still shaking and shaking without a trace of reservation. Boom! This attack was really like a thunderbolt. The ferocious power kept surging in his body. When Di Shirtion drove the power to crash into the barrier, he only felt that there seemed to be a terrifying explosion in his mind. His mind trembled violently and became blank. He lay on the rock and fainted. Thick blood mist spurted out from his body. In the Tiger Hill mountain range, just as they entered the mountain range, the guards discovered the situation and hurriedly came to report to Princess Chuyin. Chapter 19. Your Highness, we were scouting ahead and found a severely injured martial artist. From the looks of it, I'm afraid he won't be able to live much longer, Nalai replied respectfully. Since he won't be able to live, he should have taken him somewhere else and buried him. Why did he come and disturb your highness? Qin Hai asked the soldier calmly. The wolf army was his subordinate. He knew very well that if it was such a small matter, he would definitely not have come to disturb them. There must be something else going on. His question was just to draw out the following words. Princess Chu Yin was not a fool. As a member of the royal family, she naturally had a mentality that was rare for ordinary people. She knew that there must be more to it, so she could not help but reveal a curious expression. Your Highness, after we saw this, we did want to carry this person to the side, but this person said something important about the Tiger Hill mountain range. We did not dare to make a decision on our own, so we immediately came to ask your Highness and the general. The person who came was obviously a warrior who had climbed out of a pile of corpses. Although he was respectful to the princess, he was not so frightened that he spoke incoherently. Then, he gave a brief account of what had happened. About the Tiger Hill mountain range, Princess Chu Yun's interest was piqued. She asked, "What important information is it? Tell us quickly." They were currently in Tiger Hill mountain range. Very few people came to Tiger Hill mountain range, so no one knew what was inside in a short period of time. Although some of them had already stepped onto the path of cultivation, they hadn't reached the point where they could fly. Therefore, they also did not know much about the Tiger Hill mountain range. Now that there was a situation, they could not help but be interested. Zheng Baichuan also closed the fan in his hand. He put on an expression of listening attentively. We still need your Highness and the general to go together. I believe that if you hear what that person says personally, it will be more convincing than what your subordinates say. The guard did not open his mouth, but did something else. All right, I'd like to see what kind of news this martial artist will bring. Princess Chu Yin did not blame the guard. Instead, she agreed with interest. Since Princess Chu Yin had made her decision, the others naturally had nothing to say. This was because the guard had said that the person was seriously injured and would not be able to hold on for long. Hence, without much hesitation, the group of people quickly walked forward under the guard's lead. Not long after, an empty space appeared before them. Guards were standing in every corner of the tent in high spirits. They were carefully on guard to prevent any accidents from happening. In front of a tent in the middle, there was a stretcher with a middle-aged man lying on it. This person's entire body was dyed red with blood, and he was on his last breath. From the looks of it, he could die at any moment. That person was already unconscious. However, there was a deep fear in his eyes. His mouth kept moving up and down as if he was saying something. If one listened carefully, one could make out some vague words from his mouth. Princess Chu Yun and the others came over. When they saw this person, they immediately understood who the guard was talking about. They walked forward together. The surroundings were silent. A terrified murmur came from the people on the stretcher. Run, run, wolves, there are wolves, so many wolves. Dead, they're all dead. What a huge black tiger. The tiger has become a demon. These words kept coming out of the middle-aged man's mouth. His mind was already in an extremely heavy state of shock. Moreover, a doctor had examined him and found that several of his bones were broken, and his meridians were almost all broken. There were claw marks on his body, especially on his back. He had suffered a rather strong blow, and there was a rather deep claw mark on his back. Looking at the shape of the claw mark, it was not a human's, but an animal's. If Di Shirtian were here at this time, he would find that the person lying on the stretcher was none other than Mao Yidao, who had desperately used his lightness skill to escape and suffered a heavy blow from him. Mao Yidao's vitality was really tenacious. That claw was condensed by Di Shirtian with his demon power. Although its power might be reduced after it left his body, it was still a strike from a person who had practiced the tiger roaring skill to the second level and was about to become a demonic beast. In Jianghu, there were only a few people who could block it. After being hit on the back, he did not die on the spot. Instead, his potential was stimulated, and he only fell after escaping here. It could be seen that Mao Yidao could be considered a master in Jianghu. However, Di Shirtian's demon power was not fake after all. Even if he escaped here, it was still difficult for him to escape the fate of death. Not long after, Mao Yidao breathed his last. However, When the princess of Chu Yun and the others heard his last murmur, their hearts were not calm. Before a person died, they would always tell the truth. From Mao Yidao's words, they could easily guess that Mao Yidao might have led a group of people in a Tiger Hill mountain range before them. However, their luck wasn't good. Not only did they not find the so-called exotic treasure, but they also encountered a pack of wolves. Being besieged by a pack of wolves, they must have suffered heavy losses. Later on, when Mao Yidao mentioned a black tiger and something about a tiger spirit, she was certain that before he died, he definitely saw a huge black tiger. Moreover, from the looks of it, that black tiger was definitely not simple. Otherwise, Mao Yidao wouldn't have called out the tiger spirit at the end. There are indeed tigers in the Tiger Hill mountain range. The princess of Chu Yun's eyes flickered, and she said with a trace of excitement, "That's great. Later, let the guards go into the mountain to look for it. We must catch this tiger. See if there's anything different. I've seen ordinary tigers, but I wonder what a tiger spirit looks like." Originally, she had been constantly thinking about catching a tiger. Now, she actually found out that there was a tiger in the mountain range. Moreover, it was not an ordinary tiger. She was not afraid of ordinary people. Instead, she was eager to try. She wanted to catch the black tiger in front of her and see what was so special about it. "Congratulations, princess." At this time, Zheng Baichuan suddenly congratulated the princess of Chuyuan. His expression was not one of flattery. Instead, it was a kind of sincere joy. A moment ago, when Mao Yidao died, he walked over to him and examined his wound. After he stood up, he began to speak with a joyful expression on his face. "What's there to be happy about?" Qin Hai frowned slightly and retorted without any trace of politeness. "Even if there is a tiger, I can just ask the guards to bring people to catch it later. It's not like this is the location of the rare treasure." After saying that, he deliberately revealed a disdainful expression. When Zheng Baichuan heard this, a faint light flashed across his eyes. However, it disappeared immediately. Instead, a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he said, "Brother Qin, you don't know about this. I just checked the body of the deceased and found something." "What is it?" The princess of Chu Yun asked curiously and looked at him. When Zheng Baichuan saw that the princess's attention was attracted, the smile on his face became even wider. He opened the mountain river fan in his hand and gently waved it a few times. He said, "Princess, I just found a faint demonic aura on the wound of the deceased." "Demonic aura?" Qin Hai and the others could not help but frown slightly. "You mean that the tiger in the mountain is really a tiger spirit?" The princess of Chu Yun's eyes revealed a trace of craftiness with a hint of excitement. Obviously, she understood what demonic aura meant. That's right. From what that person said and the demonic aura found on the wound, there must be a tiger that has always been spiritual and has already begun to understand how to absorb the essence of the sun and the moon, as well as the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. After all, Zheng Baichuan came from a cultivation sect and knew more things than these people. Now that he had attracted everyone's attention, he immediately began to talk leisurely. Animals that have just begun to absorb the essence of the sun and the moon are all spiritual. In the cultivation world, these animals are called demons. Their intelligence is not high, so it is not difficult to deal with them. Moreover, if they can be subdued, they will become spiritual beasts. They can become spiritual beasts that follow people. If they're cultivated into spiritual beasts, they will have an extremely good helper in the cultivation world in the future. When their cultivation is higher and they form an inner core, they will have the strength equivalent to a cultivator in the core formation stage. They will be able to exert a considerable amount of combat power. Zheng Baichuan revealed a yearning look and said, "A good spirit beast is a very popular item in the immortal cultivation world. If they are cultivated well, they will be hard to find. Indeed, just think about it. During a battle, one of them had a spiritual beast. Moreover, it was a spiritual beast that had formed a core. That was equivalent to a core-bearing stage expert. 2 against 1. How big of an advantage would one have? However, In this world, spiritual beasts were very difficult to find. In the cultivation world, spiritual beasts were also very rare. Moreover, there was a special method to cultivate them. It was not easy. Without a certain amount of resources, it was very difficult to cultivate such a powerful spiritual beast. Often, a good spiritual beast would require a sky-high price to buy. It was said that in the immortal cultivation world, there was a sect called the 10,000 Beast sect. The sect had a special method of cultivating spirit beasts. They searched for all kinds of spiritual animals and brought them back to the sect to cultivate them. If they were sold outside, each of them could be sold at a sky-high price. The strength of the sect relied on this ability to rise to the height of a top sect. There were a lot of hidden experts in the sect. Moreover, many powerhouses among rogue cultivators joined the sect in search of a suitable spirit beast, which increased the number of powerhouses in the sect. The sect of Thousand Beasts had a very deep foundation. As Princess Chu Yun listened, a desire to obtain the black tiger in the Tiger Hill mountain range slowly appeared in her eyes. Big Brother Qin, let's not look for the rare treasure for now. Immediately send people to search everywhere. We must find this black tiger. I want to capture it and make it my spirit beast. Princess Chu Yun's eyes turned, and she immediately said to Qin Hai. There was a kind of dignity in her tone that could not be questioned. Go to the book review and comment section. Don't make me unable to post any good ideas. Chapter 20. The Princess of Chu Yun was born in the royal family of the secular world, but she was not ignorant of the cultivation world like the ordinary people. The royal family was not without the power to fight against the cultivators. Just like her, after today's birthday, she will be taken to the Lianyun sect of the immortal cultivation world and officially embark on the path of immortal cultivation. Her spiritual route was not bad. It could be said to be excellent. With the support of the secular world and the cultivation of the sect, it wouldn't be long before an expert appeared. This was equivalent to the imperial family of the secular world gaining a powerful backer. Moreover, the royal family was able to stand tall, so it was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. The Princess of Chu Yun also had her own understanding of spiritual beasts. She thought to herself, originally, the Ancestor said that he would give me a spiritual beast after I enter the sect. If I can capture this black tiger and subdue it this time, I will definitely stand out in front of the Ancestor. At that time, it will be much easier to ask the Ancestor to give me some spiritual medicine and Dharma weapons. Maybe the Ancestor will be happy and help me refine a natal Dharma weapon. I heard that the earlier the natal Dharma weapon is cultivated, the greater its potential in the future. There is a high chance that the Dharma weapon can be cultivated into a natal Dharma weapon. Thinking of this, she was even more determined to obtain the black tiger. The original idea of coming in to search for treasures had long been thrown aside, and all her thoughts were on the black tiger. After hearing that there were so many benefits to a spiritual beast, Qin Hai's expression became serious, and he said with certainty, Princess, please don't worry. Qin Hai, will immediately let the Grey Wolf army follow the traces left behind by the deceased. As long as I have some time and the black tiger is still in the mountains, I will definitely be able to find it. I will capture it and give it to the princess as a gift. Now is the opportunity to show off, so Qin Hai naturally would not miss it and immediately promised. Since the black tiger has spirituality and demonic power has been born in its body, then the spiritual talisman in my hand will be useful to it. I will go with you. Maybe we can find it faster. Zheng Baichuan naturally would not give up this opportunity to show off and joined in without hesitation. All right, soldiers, listen up. Every 3 people in a team start searching in the depths of the mountains. Once you find a black tiger, immediately send a signal and try to delay it as much as possible. Wait for our arrival. Yes. Under Qin Hai's command, the surrounding guards all responded loudly. Their answers were like thunder in the mountain forest, startling the nearby birds and causing them to fly away in fright. Following that, hundreds of people formed teams one after another. Only 100 people were left to guard the area, while the rest went deep into the forest. A dangerous aura slowly enveloped D. Chertion. Of course, D. Chertion didn't know this. Unknowingly, the dark clouds that had been hovering in the sky had quietly dissipated. The moon slowly moved to the center and shone at the center. Wisps of gentle moonlight selflessly sprinkled on everything in the world. Under the moonlight, beautiful flowers bathed in the night dew and slowly bloomed their most beautiful side. It was as if he was going to welcome the baptism of the moonlight. A waterfall cascaded down the mountain. The boulder on the mountain peak was faintly shrouded by a layer of black fog. Specks of silver-white light were rapidly drawn over from every corner in the surroundings, entering the black fog. The silver light came very quickly and slowly formed a ball of silver light in the surroundings. Intertwined with the black fog, there was an indescribable mystery. Looking at the black fog with the help of the moonlight, one could see a black tiger lying quietly on the boulder. The black tiger's body was quite large. Even if it was lying down and not standing up, it was still much taller than an ordinary tiger. Looking at its body, if it stood up, it would be close to the height of an adult, about 1.5 meters. Just by looking at it, one could tell that it was a huge monster. Ooh. Following the black tiger's breathing, a thick tiger's aura uncontrollably spread out in all directions, completely covering a radius of 1 li. The surrounding animals either trembled in fear or quickly escaped from this area. Fortunately, this was the mountain peak, and there weren't too many birds and beasts living here. It didn't cause too much of a commotion. On the black tiger's forehead, there was a unique purple king mark. This king mark also grew bigger when the black tiger's body grew bigger. The tiger marks were like a mysterious talisman seal. It was very strange. Within the king mark, there was a kind of supreme king's chi that was constantly flowing on the black tiger's forehead. It faintly carried a kind of intimidating power. As it breathed in and out, the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth continuously entered D. Chertion's body through the various meridians and the countless pores on its body. The tiger roaring technique was automatically circulating in his body. If D. Chertion was awake at this time, he could clearly feel that now all the meridians in his body had been connected together, forming a circulation. The meridians in the 2 hind legs, which were originally blocked, became unobstructed, and the demonic power flowed back and forth in the meridians, circulating at will. With every circulation, the essence of the sun and moon and the spiritual chi of heaven and earth absorbed from the outside were all refined. Now, the refining speed was faster than before, and the speed was incomparable. The spiritual chi of the spirit-gathering pill was also quickly absorbed and refined, and was no longer as violent as before, easily refined into demonic power. Looking at the demonic power, the amount of demonic power in the meridians was obviously much less than before, but in terms of purity and size, it was much more than before. Under the silent moonlight, an unknown amount of time had passed. When the moon gradually began to tilt, the black fog surrounding the black tiger was like a whale sucking in water, quickly retracting back into the body through the 108,000 pores. After the essence of the sun and moon all entered the body, it didn't gather again. Slowly, he opened his eyes. The familiar surroundings appeared in front of his eyes. With this look, D. Chertion suddenly stood up. "I'm not dead, I'm still alive." An indescribable joy emerged in his heart. He only remembered that in the end he launched the last attack, the last desperate attack. At that time, he gathered almost all the power that he could control. The power that erupted from the collision had shaken him to the point where he lost consciousness. He was no longer aware of what had happened after that. While he was happy, D. Chertion didn't continue to immerse himself in it, but instead quickly closed his eyes and focused his mind on the inside of his body. He was originally a reincarnated human and was born with the mental power of an adult. Compared to ordinary animals, who knows how many times higher. Ever since he began to cultivate, his mental power began to slowly change, and he could clearly feel this mysterious power. This kind of power was called mental power, spiritual sense, divine sense, and so on in the immortal cultivation world. And in the demon clan, it was called demon sense. To be honest, only the name was different, and there was no difference. At this time, if Deshurtian's demon sense was fully exerted, it could already cover a radius of 1 mile around him. Under the coverage of demon sense, everything in the middle, even if he didn't see it with his own eyes, could be clearly felt. Moreover, he could see many different scenes than usual. It was very wonderful. Now, he used demon sense to observe the situation in his body. Immediately, he saw the changes in his body and couldn't help but feel excited. All the meridians in his body were now open, and his demonic power was unimpeded in his body, connecting into one. The roaring tiger technique didn't need to be driven by him at all, and it could automatically operate in his body. Although the speed wasn't as fast as when he operated it, and the increase in demonic power each time was relatively small, but it won in terms of endurance. It won in terms of continuity. Move a little. Crackle. A crisp sound of bones sounded from all over his body, like beans being fried. With the sound, an incomparably comfortable feeling spread out from his body. A strong feeling of power welled up in his heart. There was a strong impulse in his mouth that couldn't help but want to face the sky and let out a tiger's roar. The meridians are connected to the whole body. This is the sign of reaching the third layer. I finally broke through. Deshurtian forcibly suppressed the impulse in his heart, thinking, the third layer and the fourth layer is a watershed. Although I broke through to accumulate the demonic power in my meridians until it flows endlessly, it still needs a lot of time to settle. Absorb the essence of the sun and moon. Take the spirit-gathering pill. After eating the pill, maybe I can cultivate the third layer to perfection. Then I can consider the matter of opening the demon mansion. Although he was very happy with this breakthrough, as it was a good start, he also knew that breaking through to the third layer was only the beginning of his demonic cultivation. The current him couldn't even be considered a demonic cultivator. Only when he truly opened up his demonic dwelling and broke through to the fourth layer would he truly be considered a demonic cultivator. That was, he would become a demonic beast. Jumping off the boulder, Deshurtian's gaze was somewhat complicated as he turned his head to look at the boulder. To be honest, until now, he had been guessing what kind of secret this boulder had, or what was hidden inside that had repeatedly helped him at critical junctures. I've already broken through to the third layer. Let's see if I can break this boulder. If I can, it's a good opportunity to see what kind of miraculous treasures are hidden inside the boulder. To have such a miraculous power. Looking at the boulder, and then feeling the endless flow of demonic power in his body. Compared to before, whether in terms of quantity or purity, there was an incomparably huge breakthrough. That kind of powerful feeling made him involuntarily want to try breaking the boulder. Once this idea came out, it really seemed to have taken root in his mind. A climax is coming. I need to properly prepare. Brothers, hurry up and throw a few tickets to let my inspiration come out. Chapter 21. With this thought in mind, Deshurtian did not try to suppress it. He wanted to try and see if he could break the rock. Roar! Deshurtian roared in a low voice and activated the roaring tiger technique. The demonic energy in his body flowed through his meridians at an unprecedented speed. A domineering aura naturally emerged from his body. The purple king mark on his forehead became even more lifelike, and the aura of the king of beasts exuded from his body. He raised his right tiger claw, and all the demonic energy in his body quickly surged into it. In an instant, a thick layer of black, demonic energy rolled out from the claw and enveloped the entire tiger claw. The sharp claw shone with a metallic black luster, and a powerful force quickly gathered in the tiger claw. The influx of demonic energy actually caused the tiger claw to expand by a size in an instant, becoming even more terrifying. Boom! After the tiger claw accumulated enough energy, it slammed heavily against the rock in front of him. Immediately, a thick layer of black demonic power bombarded the tiger claw, causing a black halo to appear around the tiger claw. This blow could be said to be a blow that Sakura had condensed all the strength of his body. If it was another rock that was bombarded, it would have been instantly smashed into powder by the huge demonic power contained in the tiger claw. It would have been torn apart and shattered into pieces. However, when the tiger claw hit the rock, Di Shirtian's heart skipped a beat. This is impossible. This was the first thought that appeared in his mind. Then, he saw that the demonic power that was originally bombarding the boulder had mysteriously disappeared. It was as if there was no demonic power bombarding the boulder at all. It was very strange. At this moment, Di Shirtian was even more certain that the rock in front of him was an incredible treasure. This was because the demonic energy that was bombarded did not dissipate naturally. Instead, it was directly absorbed by the rock. The full-force attack did not even cause the slightest bit of damage to it. This point was truly shocking to the extreme. It is indeed very strange. After Di Shirtian confirmed that the rock in front of him was not an ordinary rock, he did not continue to hold on to it. He knew that with his current abilities, he would not be able to uncover the rock's secret. Therefore, he turned around and walked down the mountain without hesitation. The rock was right there. From its appearance, there was nothing special about it. Even if someone saw it with their own eyes, they would only treat it as an ordinary rock and would not pay attention to it. Therefore, he was not worried that the rock would disappear. His body had become even bigger. On the way back, he was silently experiencing the changes that had taken place in his body. He was getting familiar with it bit by bit. He could feel that almost every inch of his muscles seemed to be hiding an unparalleled power. His physical body had become even stronger. In terms of defense alone, it was more than twice as strong as before. In this way, he had a deeper understanding of the strength of beast cultivators. He returned to the cave. Once again, he retrieved the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box from the ground and began to implement the puzzle steps that he had already calculated. Thousands of pieces of the puzzle were deeply imprinted in his mind. As he pieced them together, he closed his eyes from time to time and tried to combine the pieces of the puzzle in his mind. Although this kind of puzzle was an extremely difficult task, in Di Shirtian's eyes, it was an extremely challenging task. In his heart, a thought of not giving up until he had completed this puzzle was born. Of course, he also wanted to see what was hidden in this treasure box and why it was so mysterious. Time flew when he was focused. Unknowingly, the sun had already risen in the east. The golden light shone on the forest, reflecting the rays of the sun. In the east, there was a ball of purple gas spewing out. It seemed to make people feel relaxed and happy. Speaking of which, the princess of Chu Yun and the others immediately shifted their interest from looking for the rare treasure to catching the black tiger. They sent out most of the guard around them. Previously, when Mao Yidao escaped from the wolf pack, his execution speed was very fast. Don't forget that he was heavily beaten up by Sakura at that time. When he was escaping, the blood on his body had also left behind many obvious traces along the way. Among these guards, there were quite a number of tracking experts. A group of 3 guards followed the traces and searched deep into the mountain range. But Face, I have to say, your nose is really sharp. You can find this place just by following the smell of blood. Who knows? Maybe we could be the first to find the black tiger this time and make a great contribution. A burly man revealed a silly smile as he spoke to a man with a medium build but a rather big nose in front of him. Hee, Brother Wang-san, you don't know this, right? His nose is very famous. I'm from the same town as him. If there's anything delicious in town, as long as his nose twitches, he'll know immediately. A man with a figure similar to a monkey laughed strangely. Go, go, go. I was born with this nose. You can't be envious of it. But Face didn't care at all. It was normal for brothers to joke around. They had all climbed out from piles of corpses, so their relationship was deeper. Why would they care about such things? All right, Brother Wang-san, Monkey, what do you think we should do if we really find the black tiger? I heard that the black tiger has become a demon. It's very powerful. If it really gets angry, we might not be able to handle it. But Face was clearly a little worried at this time. The tiger was the king of all beasts in the forest. Usually, more than 10 people might not be able to take it down. If it became a demon, it would be even more terrifying. When it got angry, it could really kill people. When Monkey heard this, he laughed and said, "That's easy. We'll just follow it from afar and send a signal for General Cheen to bring people over. When that time comes, we'll have made a great contribution. Once the princess is happy, there will definitely be rewards." Shoo! At this time, Buttface's expression suddenly became serious. He put a finger to his mouth and made a shushing gesture. Then, he carefully squatted down a little and took out a bag of strange powder. He sprinkled it on himself and the other two people. Seeing Buttface like this, the tacit understanding between comrades made them understand that something must have happened. They followed Buttface and slowly moved forward. They were very careful and tried not to make a single sound. They pulled apart a clump of dense weeds. The three of them stretched their heads forward to look. Oh my God! When they saw it, the three of them were so scared that they almost jumped up. Their hearts jumped to their throats. Their eyes were wide open. In front of them was a mountain peak that wasn't too high. At the foot of the mountain, there was a rather large natural karst cave. From their angle, they could see everything in front of them. In the cave, there were many puppy-like wolf cubs crawling around. Looking at the number, there were at least a few hundred of them. A large number of female wolves were also lying on the ground, feeding milk to their puppies. Patter, patter, patter. There was an endless stream of patter sounds. Outside, there were many tall wild wolves with two sharp eyes, constantly scanning the surroundings. As long as there was a breeze or a blade of grass, they would be alerted immediately. Every one of them was quite thick and strong. Waves of ferocious aura could be clearly felt. There were almost a few thousand of these wolves. They were so big that people would feel their scalps tingling just by looking at them. It was really frightening, especially when they saw the snow-white wolf lying in the middle, which was bigger than the other wolves. They were even more shocked. "Wolf King! It must be the Wolf King." A voice rang frantically in the hearts of the three of them. According to convention, as long as there were more than 300 wolves in a pack, there would definitely be a Wolf King. Now, that there was a Wolf King in a pack of several thousand wolves, one could imagine how powerful it would be. No one would have thought that instead of finding the black tiger, they would first find a pack of terrifying wolves. Moreover, it was an unusually large pack of wolves. Speaking of which, this pack of wolves was none other than the pack of wolves that Tion had subdued last night. The Wolf King was by you. Back then, after Tion had subdued Bayou, he was in a hurry to cultivate and left the pack of wolves. He told the Wolf King to look for him 3 days later. Therefore, Bayou the Wolf King first dragged the people he had killed to the pack of wolves as food. At this time, he was familiarizing himself with the demonic energy that Tion had left in his body. The more he familiarized himself with it, the more he understood the wonders of the demonic energy. This was because when the demonic energy was circulating, he could clearly feel his body slowly becoming stronger. This feeling of becoming stronger, although slow, could be clearly felt. In the forest, strength was everything. The Wolf King was intelligent. He was extremely grateful that Tion had given him this kind of strength. He was not as scheming as other people. In his heart, he had completely submitted to Tion. Moreover, a kind of loyalty was born from the bottom of his heart. Awoo! The Wolf King opened his eyes and stood up from the ground. He raised his head and let out a howl. As soon as the Wolf King howled, the surrounding wolves immediately responded and howled as well. However, there seemed to be another meaning behind Bayou's howl. After the voice fell, many strong wild wolves were seen running in different directions in groups of 3 to 5. Every direction was different. In the blink of an eye, over 1,000 wild wolves had split up. With such a large-scale movement, the momentum was indeed extraordinary. The king has given me strength and a name. He has asked me to meet him 3 days later. Before I meet the king, I must complete the mission that the king has given me. Bayou the Wolf King looked into the depths of the forest with a deep gaze. Before Sakura left, he had left a message for him to investigate the races with kings in the Tiger Hill mountain range. He had always remembered this order in his heart and had never forgotten it. Chapter 22. Just as the Wolf King was looking into the depths of the mountains, his ears twitched. Instantly, his gaze froze, and he turned his head to look at a pile of weeds not far away. His eyes shone with a sharp light. Awoo! The Wolf King raised its head and let out a proud howl. In the midst of the howl, all the wolves lying on the ground suddenly stood up and quickly rushed towards the location of the weeds. Thousands of wolves, densely packed, had completely surrounded the dense weeds in an instant. Not good. Don't be discovered. When Buttface saw the Wolf King looking in their direction, his heart skipped a beat. He immediately knew that the three of them had been discovered. Just as he was about to pull the other two out of this place, he no longer had the chance. The Wolf King was too alert. The moment it discovered them, it immediately ordered the wolves to surround the place where the three of them were. Looking at the densely packed pack of wolves outside, each of them staring at them with bloodthirsty eyes, that scene made one's hair stand on end. Being in such a situation, Buttface could not help but laugh bitterly in his heart. He stood up and smiled bitterly at Brother Wong and Monkey beside him. Brother Wong, Monkey, we might really be buried in the mouths of the wolves today. It's all my fault. If I didn't bring everyone here, this wouldn't have happened. Look at the ferocious wolves, their faces full of despair. Escaping from such a pack of wolves, you guys have no chance. Buttface, what nonsense are you talking about? Which one of us didn't crawl out from the battlefield? If we're going to die, we're going to die together. If you say the word fear, you're not a man. Brother Wong's eyes widened in anger. With a clang, he pulled out the long saber at his waist. The saber was a top-grade, well-tempered war saber. The blade rippled like autumn water, with a murderous aura flowing around it. It was obvious that this was a sharp weapon for killing. You're right. At most, the three of us will die together. But before we die, we have to drag a dozen or so wolves down with us. Although the monkey was small and skinny, at this critical juncture, he didn't hesitate. He also pulled out his tempered war blade and licked his lips, revealing a bloodthirsty malevolence. Okay, let's send out the signal first, and then we'll fight it out with these wolf cubs. Hearing their words, Buttface also felt a sense of pride in his heart. All this happened in the blink of an eye. The three of them stood up from the weeds and stood back to back. A strange object as thick as a bamboo barrel appeared in Monkey's hand. He opened the match and lit the fuse on the outside. Whoosh! Then, an ear-piercing sound of something breaking through the air was heard. A cluster of sparks shot up into the sky. Bang! The sparks exploded in mid-air, bursting out countless sparks that miraculously combined together to form a huge phoenix bathed in fire. It was vivid and lifelike, as if it was going to spread its wings and soar into the sky at any time. The image of the phoenix bathed in fire lasted in the air for dozens of seconds. It was so clear that all living beings within a radius of several hundred miles could see it. Oh, the Wolf King also saw the image of the phoenix bathed in fire in the sky. He was very intelligent, but he wasn't smart enough to understand the meaning of the image in mid-air. However, he vaguely understood that this thing wasn't anything good. He looked at the three people surrounded by the wolf pack with an aura of death in his eyes. A long howl. The wolf pack seemed to have received the signal to attack. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One by one, the vigorous wild wolves ran and pounced on the three people. Sharp claws were exposed under their bodies, and they opened their mouths to reveal ferocious wolf fangs, leaving long afterimages in the air. Below them, there was also a strong adult wolf that launched a fierce attack. Above and below them, everything was covered by the wolf pack's attacks. Wolves, in this world, could be said to be the most frightening of the pack of animals. Whether it was in the mountains or on the grassland, no one would be willing to encounter a pack of wolves. This was because the pack of wolves not only had strong aggressiveness, but also mobility. They also had a certain degree of tacit understanding, and there was considerable cooperation between each other. Such tacit understanding and cooperation was enough to make the threat of the wolf pack reach a peak. Coupled with the Wolf King's command, it was even more irresistible. The wolf pack didn't swarm up. After all, the position of the three people, the space that could be attacked was quite limited. 40 to 50 wolves at a time could completely cover the three people under attack. If the number of wolves increased, there wouldn't be any space for them to attack. The rest of the wolf pack glared at them and coldly sealed off the surroundings. Kill. The three people were all warriors who had experienced hundreds of battles. At this time, they also knew that fear wasn't the way to solve the problem. Second Brother Wong's burly body was quite frightening. Looking at a tall wild wolf that was pouncing on him, his eyes widened and the well-tempered sword in his hand swept horizontally in front of him. An arc of sword light was brought out in front of him. Military combat technique. Total annihilation. With this slash, the combat technique and murderous aura that was tempered by the pile of corpses was completely stimulated. It swept out, and in that fierce murderous aura, it gave people an irresistible fierce momentum. It was as if it could really wipe out 1,000 soldiers. Military combat techniques were known for their simplicity and straightforwardness. In order to kill the enemy, they pursued the most direct lethality. Puff! The sword was very sharp. With a slash, it was as fast as lightning. It directly chopped off the head of the wild wolf that was pouncing on him. However, the wild wolf's momentum was incomparably fierce. Its body was in midair. Although its head was chopped off, its two wolf claws still followed the previous force and fell on Second Brother Wong's left arm. Crash! Several bone-deep claw marks immediately appeared on his body. Because they came with the princess, these guards didn't wear armor. They only wore some guards' uniforms, and their defense was extremely limited. How could they resist the sharpness of the wolf claws? Oh, the wolf howled, and the wolf's nature was aggressive. In the face of death, not only did it not scare them away, but it also became more fierce. One by one, they rushed forward dauntlessly and were not afraid of death. Even if they died, they would also leave a mark on each other's body. As soon as the killing began, it entered a white-hot situation. In just a moment, dozens of wild wolves fell on the ground. The three people who were besieged were also stained with blood. There was wolf blood and also the blood that flowed out of their own body. Wounds were densely everywhere. Their bodies were already tottering. Brothers, we will be brothers in the next life. I, Second Brother Wong, will go first. Kill. Second Brother Wong roared, took a big step forward, and slashed out with his sword. Total annihilation, splitting Mount Hua. A rain of blood swept up in the wolf pack. However, how could the Wolf King let him go crazy? With a howl, dozens of tall wild wolves pounced on him. In a short while, his throat was bitten open, and he died. We will be brothers in the next life. Monkey and the other man roared and pounced out as well. They already knew that there was no chance of escaping when trapped in such a large pack of wolves. It was only a matter of how many they killed. As expected, not long after, the two of them died under the wolf's bite. All of this seemed to take a long time to describe, but in fact, not much time had passed. In about 15 minutes, the three of them died under the wolf's bite. Seeing that the three of them were dead, the Wolf King's eyes flashed. He ordered the wolves to drag the three corpses into the cave. The wolves that had been killed were also dragged in together. Let's not talk about these things for now. Although Monkey and the other two had died in battle, the signal they sent out had attracted the attention of everyone in the entire mountain range. Look, our people sent out a signal. It's in the southeast direction. The phoenix bathed in fire was the symbol of the royal family. Looking at the image of the phoenix rising in the air, Qin Hai's heart skipped a beat. He knew that they must have found something over there. Then what are we waiting for? Quickly call everyone back. We will rush over immediately. We must have found Black Tiger. Princess Chu Yun's face was filled with excitement. She hurriedly said, "Aha, Princess, you can count on me when the time comes. This time, I happen to have a beast collar with me. With this, no matter how powerful Black Tiger is, it will have to submit obediently." Zheng Baichuan calmly took out a strange yellow bracelet that looked like a bracelet from his storage bag. There were countless small talismans on the bracelet. The runes looked very mysterious. As long as we find Black Tiger with this bracelet, that Black Tiger will definitely belong to the princess. Zheng Baichuan's words were filled with confidence. Obviously, he was very confident in the power of the beast collar in his hand. He believed that with it, a mere Black Tiger would be easily captured. It would be a good gift for Princess Chuyan. Who knows, it might even win the princess's heart. At this moment, when the guards scattered around Tiger Hill mountain range saw the signal that suddenly appeared in the sky, they immediately knew that they had found something and rushed back. Without making Qin Hai and the rest wait for too long, the guards had all gathered. The large group of people and horses rushed straight to the place where the signal had appeared. They unsheathed their long sabers with sharp gazes. This time, the momentum was truly vast. Of course, this signal did not only lead Princess Chu Yun and the rest over. Don't forget that there were many people in the Jianghu in this forest. When they saw that something had happened, they immediately rushed to the same place from all directions as if they had a direction. They formed a group and startled many birds in a mountain range. This is the howl of a wolf that worships the moon. Could it be that something has happened? Di Shirtian, who was trying his best to put together the jigsaw puzzle in the cave, also heard the loud howl. He woke up with a start and could not help but frown slightly. He glanced at the imperial treasure box in front of him, held it in his mouth, and came to the stone wall. After putting it down, he waved his tiger claws and directly stabbed them into the solid stone wall. Chapter 23. Chi. Along with a soft sound, the originally hard stone wall that even a sharp long knife would have a hard time piercing through was simply like tofu under his tiger claws, easily piercing into the stone wall. This did not surprise Di Shirtian. Now that his entire body's demonic energy had penetrated through his meridians, even metal would be torn apart with a single claw. If he concentrated his demonic energy into his claw, not only would the treasure blade not be able to hurt him, but it would also be easily blasted into a pile of scrap metal. His strength at this moment could be considered as truly entering the palace. He quickly dug out a hollow hole in the stone wall and placed the treasure box and the jade bottle with the spirit-gathering pill inside. Then he stuffed the stones back into the hole. With a thought, he poured his demonic energy into the tiger claw, and a faint black demonic energy enveloped the entire tiger claw. This was already a scene that would definitely appear when he used his demonic energy. He stretched out his claw and wiped the broken stones. His demonic energy flowed through the tiger claw into the stones. Immediately, one could see that the originally broken stones were like flowing water, mysteriously merging together and quickly connecting with the surrounding stone wall. It was as if they were a complete piece, and there was not a single gap between them. What? He retracted his tiger claw and looked at the stone wall again. There was not a single trace of flaw. No one would be able to discover that there was actually something hidden in the stone wall. This way, there won't be any flaws. The treasure box has the power to isolate the demonic energy of humans. If one doesn't see it with their own eyes, no one can use their divine sense to investigate. The jade bottle is also hidden by the side. The stone wall has been repaired by me, and it has merged with the surrounding stone walls. No matter how good one's eyesight is, they won't be able to see any flaws. Di Shirtian was very satisfied with his actions just now. This way, even if he was not here, if any animals or people entered the cave, they would definitely not discover the location of the treasure box. After doing all this, Di Shirtian moved his tall body and rushed out of the cave. He raised his head and looked at the sky. Fireworks? No, this is some kind of signal. Sakura saw the vivid and lifelike phoenix bathing in flames in the sky at first glance. His pupils contracted as he thought to himself, the place where this phoenix bathing in flames appeared is the place where Baiyu let out the wolf howl just now. Could it be that something really happened to Baiyu? Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated. His two hind legs stomped on the ground, and his tall body leaped forward with a gust of wind. He quickly ran towards the location of the phoenix bathed in flames. No matter what had happened, Baiyu was the first subordinate he had subdued here. In the future, Baiyu would follow him into the immortal cultivator's world to fight. He did not want anything to happen to Baiyu. Even if he searched the entire Tiger Hill mountain range, there would not be many intelligent animals. If an accident really happened, wouldn't all the arrangements he had made previously be in vain? In the mountain range, hundreds of beasts ran amok. There were all kinds of animals. Some were looking for food, some were standing on the treetops and singing. Everyone was living their lives as usual. At this time, a black shadow passed by. In an instant, the mountain forest was silent. Many jackals, wolves, wild boars, and the like came out to hunt. One by one, their legs went soft and they lay on the ground. Those little white rabbits and gray rabbits buried their heads in the weeds, but their buttocks were exposed and they kept trembling. All kinds of birds that were chirping happily stopped. They were so scared that they stretched out their wings and hid their heads under them. An invisible tiger's aura shrouded the surroundings. It filled every inch of the air. Such a strong tiger's aura, even if the tiger was no longer there, stayed in the surroundings for a long time before it slowly began to dissipate. It was not until a long time later that the original scene was restored. This tiger's aura was too strong and too domineering. Just now, it was not someone else but Tion. Now, all the meridians in his body had been connected, and his demonic power was running smoothly all over his body. Although his body had increased in size, it did not affect his speed at all. On the contrary, because of the great strengthening of his physical body, he became extremely strong. The power in his body constantly gave him a strong feeling. While running, his speed did not decrease, but increased, and he became even faster. Not long after, he arrived at the place where the fiery phoenix appeared. Waves of wolf howls could be heard clearly. Faintly, it seemed to be waiting on someone. F***CK, his ancestor, who the F***CK sent the signal. I thought there was some treasure, but I didn't expect that it would lead me to the wolf pack. If I knew, I would send him to hell with my ghost head saber. An extremely angry voice fell into Shirtian's ears. He could not help but hide behind a pile of grass and looked forward. With this look, his pupils shrank violently. He saw that in front of him, there was an empty field. However, in the field, there were thousands of strong wolves emitting a fierce aura, all of them staring at the front. Behind the wolf pack was a huge cave, and there were a large number of wolf cubs crawling around in the cave. Without thinking, it was definitely a wolf's nest. A snow-white wolf king stood on a large rock, and beside it, there were several particularly tall wild wolves guarding tightly. They were staring at a group of people dressed in martial arts attire. There were both men and women, and there were more than 100 of them. When these people saw the wolf pack that had already surrounded them, they all cursed loudly. They were all martial artists who had entered the Tiger Hill mountain range to search for treasures. They had entered the forest early in groups of 3 to 5. This time, they rushed here because of the signal sent by Monkey and the others. They were closer to this place, so they were one step ahead of Princess Chu Yun and the others. This was an accident. This time, they did not expect to see a group of hungry wolves that wanted to eat people instead of treasures. While they took out their weapons and were on guard, they also started cursing. F***CK, we're so unlucky this time. However, we're all people who live on the edge of Blade. Although there are many wolves, we're not ordinary people. Let's fight to the death with these animals. Who knows, we might be able to carve out a bloody path. Someone shouted loudly. With this roar, the man's courage was boosted. That's right, let's fight to the death with these wolf cubs. After all, the martial artists were unyielding. In such a situation, they were even more heroic. All of them shouted loudly to boost their courage. The Wolf King Baiyu stared coldly at the humans in front of him and howled arrogantly at the sky. As he howled, hundreds of wolves split from the pack and cooperated well as they charged ferociously at the people of the underworld. The ferocious aura exuded by the pack of wolves assaulted the people in front of them. Many people with weak willpower felt their faces turn pale. Their hands that were holding their weapons began to tremble. Kill! With a loud roar, the pack of wolves instantly clashed with a group of Jianghu people. Their tacit cooperation, their advantage in numbers, and their fearless aura made the battle extremely tragic. The thick smell of blood filled the air. It spread in all directions. There was no mercy in this kind of battle. The wolves attacked crazily, and they had the advantage in numbers. Their attacks were also very fierce. However, there were hundreds of Jianghu experts gathered together. When they joined hands, all kinds of exquisite moves were used. Saber shadows and countless sword lights were poured into the weapons like torrential rain. They could easily cut into the bodies of the wolves with genuine chi. Usually, a ferocious wild wolf could only leave a small wound on its opponent before it died. On the contrary, the wolves suffered great losses. In a short while, dozens of wolves fell, but they did not kill a single person. Di Shirtian, who was hiding at the side, saw the scene in front of him. He could not help but squint his eyes. Something's not right. Humans rarely appear in the Tiger Hill mountain range. Even if they appear, it's only the hunters who live at the edge of the mountain range who come to hunt. However, they only go to the edge of the mountain range and rarely come to the depths. Why would someone suddenly come to the depths of the mountain range? Di Shirtian pondered in his mind. Moreover, it's not just one or two. I've already killed the previous batch. This is another batch. There are more of them than before. Why would they come to the mountain range? He could not figure out this question. If it was once, it would be an accident. If it was twice, it would definitely not be an accident. Someone must have set their sights on the Tiger Hill mountain range. After thinking for a while, he still could not figure it out. He looked at the slaughter outside and felt a chill in his heart. No matter what, Baiwa has already submitted to me. In the future, he will be an excellent helper. These wolves will also be of great use. Since they've run into my hands, then they'll die. Di Shirtian's experience in his previous life made him very clear about the xenophobic nature of humans. It was absolutely impossible for them to be friends with animals. Moreover, if he cultivated to become a demon, he was afraid that he would be an enemy of immortal cultivators. Therefore, he had no qualms about killing people. Oh, a soul-stirring tiger roar came from his mouth. Di Shirtian's hind legs fiercely stomped on the ground. His tall and big body soared into the air. He directly crossed a distance of more than 10 meters and landed on the ground. Heavens! It's a tiger. What a big tiger. Oh my God, I've never seen such a big black tiger. It must have become a demon. The moment Di Shirtian pounced out, the people of the Jianghu immediately cried out in shock. Their eyeballs almost fell out. No one would have thought that a huge black tiger that could challenge the limits of human endurance would suddenly jump out at this place. That size was simply filled with an intimidating aura. Huff! Di Shirtian did not care about these people's cries of surprise. Since he had shown up, he did not plan to let the people in front of him go. He opened his tiger's mouth and sucked fiercely in front of him. In an instant, a large amount of air was sucked into his stomach. At this moment, his body was like a bottomless pit, directly sucking in all the air around him. His gaze was cold. He wanted to use these people in front of him to test out the tiger roar sound wave technique that he could already use. He could kill people with one roar. Chapter 24. This breath of air was extremely ferocious. It created a strong wind in front of him. The dragon came from the clouds, and the tiger came from the wind. Di Shirtian took a deep breath and swallowed it into his abdomen. At this moment, his entire body actually became even more tall and sturdy. The awe-inspiring tiger might was like a tide, crazily spreading out in all directions. Awu, seeing Di Shirtian appear, Wolf King Baiyu's eyes flashed with a look of respect and lowered his head. Thousands of wolves also stopped their attacks towards those people of the pugilistic world and prostrated themselves towards Sakra's position as if they were on a pilgrimage. Where would those people of the pugilistic world see such a scene before? All of them looked at it, and their eyes almost popped out. Awu, Di Shirtian did not care about anything else. He took a deep breath, and the demonic power in his body suddenly started to circulate rapidly. It rushed up to his throat like a torrential river. He opened his mouth and raised his head. An earth-shattering tiger's roar that could dominate hundreds of beasts came out of his mouth. The majestic tiger's aura and domineering aura shrouded the forest. This tiger's roar was so shocking that it was like a thunderclap. With Tion as the center, circles of pitch-black sound waves continuously spread out in all directions. It was as if a drop of water had suddenly fallen onto a tranquil surface of water, causing circles of ripples to appear. However, those were ripples. This was the sound wave that came from the tiger's roar. Under this tiger's roar that was as loud as a mountain, the group of Jianghu people did not even have the thought of running away. They all looked at him in horror. Previously, when they were facing the wolf pack, they might have been able to hold on and muster up the courage in their hearts. However, when they were facing such a majestic black tiger, under the tiger's might, their two legs had long been involuntarily swaying. Looking at the solid black ripples in front of them, they only felt a continuous roar in their heads. Their bodies trembled violently, as if their insides had been hit hard. Blood spurted out from their 7 orifices. They could not block it, even if they wanted to. Their eyes bulged out, and one by one, they fell straight to the ground. Bang! 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 These people were the best of the best in the secular world. If they were to fight, they might not be able to survive, even if there were hundreds of them. However, in this tiger's roar, they were killed just like that. Bleeding from their 7 orifices, they died very miserably. When the sound waves of the tiger's roar hit the thick trees, they exploded inch by inch and were shattered. There were countless broken branches and leaves. Between heaven and earth, there was no other sound except for the tiger's roar. A fierce wind blew in the forest out of nowhere. The wind made the trees rustling. With the support of the demonic power in his body, the tiger roar lasted for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. When the tiger's roar was released, Tion clearly realized how amazing the sound wave attack of the tiger's roar was. When the roar was released, the demon power in his body surged up to his throat. When it passed through his throat, it merged with the tiger's roar and pushed the tiger's roar to the limit. Suddenly, it produced an incredible and terrifying power. This was under his deliberate control. Otherwise, just this roar alone would have shaken the thousands of wolves present to the point that they bled from their 7 orifices and their internal organs were all shattered. They would definitely die very miserably. In this world, in addition to the 5 elements, there were many strange forces. For example, sound waves were one of them. Sound was everywhere and pervasive. If it was invisible, one could block it as long as one shut off all 6 senses. However, if it was tangible, the sound wave power would be extremely terrifying. It would be difficult to defend against it. However, although sound wave attacks were powerful, there were very few people in this world who really understood it. It was even rarer to be able to turn sound into an attack. Even if there were, people would treat it as a treasure and hide it. Tion had a natural advantage in sound waves. The tiger's roar was unusually domineering. The king's aura in it could intimidate hundreds of beasts. Therefore, he was born with the talent of sound techniques. And now, he had obtained the most suitable cultivation method, tiger's roar, which contained the trick of how to use the tiger's roar. As a member of the tiger tribe, he knew the trick and understood it well. Now that he used it, not only was it easy, but he also had a further understanding of the tiger's roar. The sound wave of the tiger's roar is powerful, but consumes too much demon power. Now that I have broken through to the 3rd level of demon power, I can only use it for about 10 times. Tion stopped the tiger's roar. He saw that in an instant, a group of Jianghu people were killed by his roar without even being able to resist. While he was satisfied, he also paid more attention to the tiger's roar. In the tiger's roar, it was the only attack method in the tiger's roar. Of course, the stronger he was, the more powerful the tiger's roar would be. With his current cultivation, the 3rd level of the tiger's roar was equivalent to an expert who had reached the late stage of qi refining. With the powerful sound wave attack of the tiger's roar, it would be strange if those Jianghu people could withstand it. It was not surprising that they died with one roar. Baiwa, Why are you fighting with these outsiders? Didn't I already kill one last time? After Sakura saw that all the people who came had already fallen, he turned his head to look at Wolf King and growled in a low voice. Your Majesty, I don't know. 3 human beings came here before and were killed by my men. Not long after, these people came here. Wolf King by you saw that with just a roar, Sakura was able to kill the pugilistic world's man whom so many of his wolves couldn't do anything to. They also had a new understanding of his strength. He came to Di Shirtian with great respect, bowed his head, and answered. Di Shirtian's heart tightened slightly. He looked up at the sky and thought, it seems that the Tiger Hill Mountain is not safe anymore. With so many people entering the mountain, my existence will definitely be discovered. If they know that I'm different, I'm not afraid of ordinary people. But if I really provoke those cultivators, trouble will come one after another. I have to find those kings with intelligence in the Tiger Hill Mountain as soon as possible. After subduing them one by one, I'll immediately take them out of here and find another place to settle down. Otherwise, I'm afraid that something bad will happen. Di Shirtian faintly had a bad omen, as if some unknown danger was coming. This kind of omen gave him a very bad feeling. Moreover, in the past 2 days, a large number of Jianghu people had appeared in the Tiger Hill Mountain, which had always been deserted. This was not a good omen. After thinking about it, he looked at the Wolf King and then at the big cave behind him. After thinking for a while, he said, Baiwe, it's not safe here anymore. Immediately take your people and quickly move to the place I told you to settle down. The Wolf King didn't know about the fiery phoenix that had bloomed in the sky earlier, but he knew very well that it was probably some kind of signal. Otherwise, it wouldn't have attracted so many people, although these people had been killed by him. Who knew if more people would come later? In short, the Wolf King and the others were no longer safe here. Although the Wolf King's people did not seem to be useful for the time being, they might be a great help in the future. Pata pata! Just at this moment, in the dense forest ahead, a burst of hurried footsteps came to Sakura's ears. Accompanying the footsteps was a burst of urging words. Hurry up! The black tiger must be here. The tiger roar just now came from here. Hurry up! Surround it from other places. Take out your bows and arrows and surround this place for me. You must not let it escape. A steady urging voice sounded in the mountain wind, and it was exceptionally clear. The dense footsteps faintly came from all directions and had already surrounded this large area. Not good. Someone else is coming. Di Shirtian's heart skipped a beat. He knew that someone was surrounding this area. They mentioned the black tiger. Could it be that they're talking about me? The 2 words, black tiger, immediately made Di Shirtian's heart skip a beat. He realized that this person was probably coming for him. After all, in this mountain range, he was the only tiger in the vicinity. Black tigers were not easy to come out, so there was no reason for 2 black tigers to appear in this mountain range. Voila! Just as he was thinking, he heard the vegetation in the forest shake. In an instant, a group of people with iron-blooded killing intent, holding bows and arrows in their hands, and a 100-tempered saber hanging from their waists, rolled out from their bodies. Looking at the number, there were no less than 300 to 400 people. They were well-trained and had a tacit understanding. In front of every archer, there was definitely a valiant warrior with a long saber in his hand, guarding in front. The tips of the arrows were all pointed forward. As soon as these soldiers came out, they immediately opened up a path in front of them. A few young men and women with extraordinary bearings and noble auras walked out. In front of them was a young girl who was born with a noble aura. She had an unparalleled appearance, and after rushing over, her little face was flushed red. Her 2 bright black eyes turned and saw Sakura, who was standing in the middle. Her eyes were immediately filled with surprise. Not only was she not afraid because of his burly body that far exceeded that of an ordinary tiger, but she was even more excited and fond of him. Black tiger, it must be this black tiger. It seems that everyone knows that this black tiger must be a mutated beast. Capture it and let it be my spiritual beast. That would be so awe-inspiring. Princess Chu Yun shouted excitedly. If she had some doubts before she saw it, Now she completely fell in love with this black tiger at first sight. She immediately had the thought of capturing this black tiger and making it her spiritual beast. Once this thought came out, it could not be suppressed. Congratulations, princess. Even in the immortal cultivation world, I have never seen such a handsome black tiger. If this black tiger is your spiritual beast, it will match your status. Zheng Baichuan looked at the black tiger in front of him, but his heart beat violently. Chapter 25. Zheng Baichuan grew up in the cultivation world, but he had never seen such a huge tiger. Spiritual beasts that had been trained did not have the peculiarities of the demon clan. Looking at the black tiger, he felt a sense of uneasiness. It was as if the black tiger in front of him was extremely dangerous. However, at such a critical moment, he could not disappoint Princess Yun. He could only comfort her in his heart. Don't be afraid. It's just a black tiger that grew up in the forest. Even if it knows how to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the essence of the sun and moon, with its intelligence, it won't be able to achieve anything in such a short time. With the beast taming collar, even if it is a ferocious tiger, it will have to lie down. Thinking of this, he calmed down. Princess, although Sakura had already sensed the movements in the surroundings, he didn't leave immediately. Firstly, Wolf King Baiyu and the thousands of wolves were still here. It wasn't a big deal for him to leave, but these wolves would definitely suffer if they stayed here. Moreover, he also wanted to see who would come this time. However, even though he was mentally prepared, he did not expect it to be a princess. It looked like they were here specifically to capture him. They came with ill intentions. These people are here to capture me and make me their spiritual beast? When Di Shirtian thought of this, his eyes turned cold. Although he was going to become a demon and was destined to be on the opposite side of humans in the future, he did not expect that there would be people who wanted to capture him and make him their spiritual beast. A fierce, murderous aura surged from his body. Qinhai looked at the tall, black tiger in front of him and felt the thick tiger aura emitting from its body. Even though he had been through hundreds of battles, he couldn't help but secretly swallow a mouthful of saliva. This was truly too frightening. However, when he saw the heavily armed guards surrounding the place, his eyes calmed down again. Clang! Qinhai pulled out the long sword in his hand and pointed at the black tiger in front of him. He said in a deep voice, "Everyone be careful. Divide a group of people to protect the princess. If the surrounding wolves dare to move, shoot them immediately and use the heaven binding net to capture the black tiger. The princess will definitely be heavily injured." Qinhai's mind was clear as he began to instruct. Immediately, the maidservant behind Princess Chu Yun took a step forward, drew her sword, and stood guard in front of her. Attack! At Qinhai's command, a huge net suddenly appeared in the hands of the surrounding imperial bodyguards. This net was made from thousands of years-old tree vines that had undergone special treatment and were incomparably tough. It had always been the best tool to capture all kinds of large prey. Once caught in this large net, even an angry bison would not be able to escape from it. Qinhai's eyes lit up as he looked at Qinhai. With a toss of the net, swish! The big blue net covered the sky and the earth like a mass of blue clouds and fiercely fell towards Di Shirtian. The edges of the net were held by dozens of strong guards who were running quickly. As long as the net was caught, they would immediately exert their strength and bind the black tiger tightly in the net. Awu! The Wolf King Baiyu was also surrounded. Looking at the group of imperial bodyguards who had surrounded them, his eyes flashed with a fierce light. He raised his head to the sky and howled, wanting to command the wolf pack to pounce on these people who dared to attack Di Shirtian. Baiyu, take your tribesmen and retreat into the cave first. These people can't do anything to me. I'll take care of everything. Di Shirtian immediately stopped him. His gaze was cold. The people in front of him were obviously coming for him. Although there were many wolves, the people who came were obviously warriors who had experienced hundreds of battles. Moreover, they had bows and arrows in their hands, and they had good teamwork. In this kind of forest, Even if the wolves had the advantage in numbers, they would definitely not be much of a threat to them. Charging forward would only increase the number of casualties. Yes, your majesty. Although the Wolf King was somewhat unwilling, he did not disobey Di Shirtian's orders. With a long howl, the wolf pack quickly retreated into the cave. All of this took a long time to describe, but in reality, it all happened in the blink of an eye. When Di Shirtian saw the huge net, his eyes revealed a cold, murderous intent. Oh, a tyrannical tiger roar, like a thunderclap, suddenly came from his mouth. He waved his two tiger claws fiercely above his head and imbued his claws with demonic energy. A layer of faint black demonic energy immediately emerged from his body and covered the tiger claws under the black energy. Swoosh, swoosh. The tiger claws were only waved casually, but the demonic energy that was emitted from the tiger claws instantly condensed into two pitch-black tiger claws in midair. Two sharp and cold rays of light were drawn in the air. Crash! The tiger claws condensed from demonic energy were extremely sharp. Although the net was tough, that was only relative to the mortal world. It was not of any use to Di Shirtian. With a crisp sound, the net shattered into countless pieces. The guards who were holding on tightly to the big net were also thrown away by the huge force after the big net was broken. After doing all this, Di Shirtian suddenly looked in the direction of the princess of Chu Yun and the others. The gaze in his tiger eyes was incomparably sharp. At this moment, the purple mark on his forehead was so lifelike that it looked as if it would break out of his body at any time. The strong aura of the Beast King covered the sky and the earth. It was almost as if it had materialized and instantly covered everyone's bodies. Oh no, this black tiger is about to cultivate into a demonic beast. This is not a simple animal with intelligence. It is a tiger demon with real power. When Zheng Baichuan saw the demonic energy emitted from Di Shirtian's body, his face changed drastically and became rather pale. He hurriedly shouted to the princess of Chu Yun, "Princess, this tiger demon is too dangerous. Even an expert in the late stage of the Qi refinement realm may not be able to do anything to it. We have to leave this place immediately. Otherwise, we will be in danger." His cultivation was not high, but he was still knowledgeable. When Di Shirtian did not move, he did not see it. Now that he made a move, he was so shocked that his face immediately turned pale. He knew that such wild beasts were generally called demons in the immortal cultivation world. They were already different from ordinary animals and had strong attacking power. Even an expert in the late stage of the Qi refinement realm would die in their hands if they did not have a good weapon. Originally, he only thought that in such a mountain forest, there would at most be a black tiger with intelligence that had just learned how to absorb the essence of the sun and moon. Who would have thought that there would be such a strong demon here? If he had known, he would not have come here no matter what. What? Qin Hai's expression changed immediately. He did not know what a tiger demon was, but he could still hear the fear in Zheng Baichuan's voice. Needless to say, he guessed that the black tiger in front of him was not simple. However, he did not listen to Zheng Baichuan's words and retreat immediately. He directly waved his long sword and shouted, "All guards, listen to my order. Use your bows and arrows to attack. Regardless of life or death, shoot." When he heard that the black tiger might be dangerous, Qin Hai did not care whether or not he wanted to capture it as a spiritual beast. Without thinking, he immediately ordered the guards to shoot at the black tiger. He wanted to kill Di Shirtian in one fell swoop. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Once the order was given, instantly, hundreds of wolf fang arrows could be seen drawing streaks of light in midair, bringing along a sharp, cold gleam as they shot towards the vital parts of Sakura's body, without any trace of politeness. Roar! When Di Shirtian saw this, his body trembled violently. Immediately, he saw a thick black gas spurt out from his body. In an instant, it turned into a black fog and completely enveloped his body. The black fog floated around his body, but it could cover his entire body. Bang, bang, bang. The black fog was formed by demonic energy. It had a certain degree of defensive properties. When the hundreds of arrows hit the black fog rolled and rolled. The arrows were only able to penetrate 1 or 2 inches before they were blocked. Whoosh! At the same time, Tion once again sucked fiercely in front of him. Immediately, a gust of wind rose from the ground. Taking a deep breath, his body expanded violently. The demonic energy in his body was frantically circulating. Roar! The tiger's roar that could shake one's soul rang out again. The tiger's roar shook the heavens. A thick, domineering aura rushed towards them. It was so thick that it almost suffocated them. It was so oppressive that even their hearts were about to stop beating. Circles of pitch-black ripples spread out from Tian's mouth like a tide. Everywhere it went, the earth trembled violently. The sound was all-pervasive. The tiger's roar was like a thunderclap. At the first moment, it shook the minds of the guards until they went blank. The sound waves that followed hit the bodies of the guards. Ah! 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 Horrifying screams continued to ring out. The internal organs of the guards were unable to withstand the unstoppable sound waves. Their liver and gallbladder were shaken, and their souls were sent flying. Blood spurted out from their mouths, and their 7 orifices were bleeding. They fell to the ground and died. The power of the tiger's roar, which was driven by a demon who was about to open up his demon residence and become a demonic beast, was simply earth-shattering. A tiger's roar could break one's soul. When the princess of Chu Yun heard the tiger's roar, she only felt a buzzing in her head. Her face turned pale. However, she was not like the guards who were scared out of their wits. She quickly reached into her storage bag. With a flash of light, a green pearl appeared in her hand. Light flowed on the pearl, making it look extraordinary. However, she did not pay attention to it at this time. Once she took it out, a strong wave of spiritual energy quickly surged into the pearl. Whoosh! A green light flashed on the surface of the green pearl. It shot out threads of green light and instantly turned into a green light screen. It quickly covered her, Zheng Baichuan, Qin Hai, and the maidservant beside her. When this light screen appeared, the tyrannical tiger roar immediately became much softer. In their ears, it no longer had the tyrannical and intimidating aura from before. Rings of black sound waves swept over and quickly arrived in front of the green light screen. Bang, bang, bang. Chapter 26. It was unknown what kind of treasure the green pearl was, but the green light screen emitted from the pearl was bombarded by the sound waves. The entire light screen trembled violently and shook continuously amidst the rumbling sounds. Princess Chu Yun, who was holding the pearl in her hand, seemed to have suffered a great deal of damage as her face turned green and white. At this moment, Princess Chu Yun changed from her usual delicate temperament. A wave of spiritual energy that contained vitality emerged from her body. Cyan spiritual energy flowed from her hands into the cyan bead. As the spiritual energy entered, the cyan light curtain formed by the cyan bead became much more stable. However, Tian's tiger roars were continuous. Black sound waves that could be seen with the naked eye struck the green light screen wave after wave at a speed that seemed slow but was actually extremely fast. It was like the water of the yellow river that flowed endlessly, wave after wave. As soon as the first wave of attack disappeared, another wave immediately took its place. Under such an attack, the green light screen quickly dimmed. It kept trembling and swaying, as if it could be destroyed at any time. At the same time, the tyrannical tiger roar ignored the existence of the light screen, shaking the minds of the people inside. The roar kept ringing in their minds, as if it wanted to shake their minds to the point of dissipation. Bang, bang, bang! Within a 1-mile radius, all the birds and beasts in the surrounding area fainted on the spot. Blood flowed out of their 7 orifices, and their bodies were instantly shattered. Tall trees exploded inch by inch. Everything that the sound waves passed by seemed to have been crushed by 2 large grindstones. Many fragile objects were directly turned into powder. The ground under their feet was trembling slightly. The power of the sound waves was all-pervasive. Everything in the sky and on the ground was included. This black tiger is so powerful. My green spirit pearl can't hold on much longer. Senior brother Zheng, didn't you say that you have a beast collar that can enslave spirit beasts? What are you waiting for? Quickly take it out. While the green spirit pearl can still hold on, use the beast collar to capture the black tiger. Otherwise, we'll really be in trouble today. When the princess of Chu Yun saw that the tiger's roar seemed to be endless and would never stop, her expression began to change as she hurriedly shouted. When Zheng Baichuan saw that the princess of the Chu Yun Empire was able to withstand the overbearing roar of the tiger, he felt bitter in his heart. The 8th level of the Qi refinement realm. He cultivated the rejuvenation technique. It wasn't that he hadn't thought that the princess of Chu Yun's family background wasn't simple. Someone must have taught her cultivation techniques from the immortal cultivation world. However, even though he had guessed correctly, he didn't expect that she was not only a cultivator, but also one of the best cultivation techniques in the Qi condensation realm, the wood element rejuvenation technique. Furthermore, he had managed to cultivate to the 8th layer, which was the peak of the middle stage of the Qi refining stage. As long as he took one more step forward, he would be able to advance to the 9th layer and officially enter the late stage of the Qi refining stage. It was fine if he didn't make a move, but once he did, it was truly shocking. He smiled bitterly in his heart. However, his thoughts were immediately awakened by the princess of the Chu Yun Empire's shout. He saw the majestic figure standing in front of him. The purple king mark on his forehead was vivid and lifelike, and he exuded a domineering aura that filled the air and shook everyone's hearts. Rings of black tigers' roar could be seen with the naked eye as they continuously bombarded the green light screen that was protecting them. Their expressions also turned cold. They knew that if the light screen was destroyed, the waves of sound waves would be enough to shatter their internal organs and scatter their souls in an instant. They wouldn't be able to escape even if they wanted to. All right, I heard that the beast taming collar can even bind demonic beasts. Although this black tiger is powerful, it hasn't cultivated to the level of a demonic beast. Otherwise, as long as it roars, we would have been killed on the spot. Beast taming collar, bind the demon. At this time, Zheng Baichuan had no way out. He reached out and took out his precious beast taming collar. He used his spiritual power and threw it out of the green light screen. His hands quickly formed a strange seal. Once the seal was formed, he pushed it in front of him. A blue light hit the black collar that was originally the size of a bracelet, and the beast taming collar trembled violently. Buzz! With a soft hum, the beast taming collar rapidly expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. In almost the blink of an eye, it had become as big as a wall-shaped collar. On the collar, mysterious runes emitted traces of strange power. After Zheng Baichuan pointed at Di Shitian, it immediately turned into a black light and wrapped around Di Shitian's neck. You're courting death. When Di Shitian saw that the strange light screen around the princess of the Chu Yun Empire and the others could actually withstand his sound waves, he immediately understood that this must be the means of immortal cultivators. How could he not know that the people in front of him were those so-called immortal cultivators? After knowing this fact, he had no intention of letting these people go. If he really let them go, it would not be long before a large number of immortal cultivators appeared in the Tiger Hill mountain range to kill him. Just as he was about to increase his strength and use the power of the tiger roar to shatter the green light screen, the beast taming collar that Zheng Baichuan threw fell into his eyes. The beast taming collar made a strange sound. This clear voice in his ears made him feel an impulse to faint. This clear voice was definitely not a good thing. The tiger roar in his mouth became louder and louder, completely covering the sound. The tiger roar did not stop. He raised a tiger claw and swung it heavily at the beast taming collar. Whoosh! A pitch-black tiger claw formed from demonic energy appeared in front of the beast taming collar. Although this tiger claw was somewhat illusory and looked like a rolling black mist, its power was not small. The tiger claw was sharp and it bombarded the beast-taming collar. The beast-taming collar made a soft sound and emitted a thick layer of black light. Strange talismans surged out from the collar and floated out. When the tiger claw and the talismans emitted by the beast-taming collar collided, a dull roar sounded in midair. The huge force immediately rebounded the beast-taming collar. The black light emitted by the beast-taming collar instantly dimmed. Countless talismans expanded and quickly shrank back into the beast-taming collar. The tiger claw formed by demonic power was also smashed into pieces. Puff! The beast-taming collar was controlled by Zhang Baichuan. When it was rebounded, he immediately felt a violent force coming from the beast-taming collar into his body. Immediately, the spiritual power in his body kept rolling up and down. His face turned pale, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth like a sharp arrow. After spurting out blood, his whole body kept trembling. He was on the verge of collapse and was seriously injured. Not good, let's go. When the princess of Chu Yun saw that the beast-taming collar had been swatted away by the claw, she knew that things were not good. She shouted softly and took out a few flashing talismans. She slapped one on each of the people beside her. When the talismans were placed on their bodies, they felt a force in their bodies quickly rushing into their legs. A strong desire to run appeared in their hearts. Divine Travel Talisman. When Zhang Baichuan saw it, he could not help but be overjoyed. When immortal cultivators were in the Qi refinement stage, as long as they had not reached the later stage of the Qi refinement stage, they would not be able to use magic artifacts. Therefore, flying was out of the question. Only by using spells such as the Imperial Wind Technique and the Divine Travel Technique could one fly and run quickly in the air. The Divine Travel Talisman was the product of the Divine Travel Technique engraved on the talismans. It had the magical power to travel 1,000 miles in a day. Let's go. At this time, there was nothing else to say. The princess of Chu Yun pulled the maidservant beside her, and a series of white shadows appeared on the spot. She was about to escape into the forest. Before Zhang Baichuan escaped, a trace of viciousness flashed across his face. He grabbed a large number of talismans from his storage bag and held them in his hand. He poured all his spiritual energy into the talismans and quickly activated them. Then, he threw them in front of Di Shirtian. He followed suit and escaped into the distance. Boom! 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 There were more than 100 of these attacks. For a moment, it was as if it was raining, shrouding, and bombarding Sakura. Roar! Roar! I can't let them escape. Di Shirtian's eyes were cold. The purple king mark on his forehead was pulsating as if it was about to jump out. He leaped out and chased after Princess Chu Yun and the others without hesitation. Cultivators! I can't let these cultivators go. Di Shirtian knew very well that once he escaped, he would be the one to run away in the future. Being soft-hearted would only lead to a fatal disaster. The godly traveling talisman could allow an ordinary person to easily travel 1,000 miles in a day. Now, in the hands of a cultivator like Princess Chu Yun, its true magical effect was unleashed. Her speed was unbelievably fast. Even though Sakura's speed was incomparably fast, he was previously blocked by Zhang Baichuan's talismans, although it was only in the blink of an eye. But when he rushed into the forest again, he was stunned to find that he could no longer track down Princess Chu Yun and the others. After a while, he returned to the place where the fierce battle had taken place. Di Shirtian scanned his surroundings, and his gaze fell on a strange black collar. He recognized it at a glance. It was the beast collar that he had taken down earlier. Although he did not know what the collar was, he was certain that it was a Dharma artifact in the hands of a cultivator. He walked forward and put the collar in his mouth. There was a deep look in his eyes. Chapter 27. A wound. Di Shirtian growled. Bai Yu the Wolf King, who had been hiding in the cave as per his instructions, immediately leaped out of the cave and came before him. He lowered his head respectfully. This place is no longer safe. Immediately bring your clansmen and move to the place I mentioned earlier. After settling down, use the fastest time to investigate all the kings in the mountain range. Tion directly opened his mouth and gave his orders. Bayu the Wolf King also agreed. Yes, Your Majesty. I've already sent my people to investigate everywhere. As soon as there are results, I'll report to Your Majesty immediately. Move immediately. Tion nodded. After saying that, he turned around and rushed back to his cave with the beast collar in his mouth. While he was traveling through the forest, his mind was not calm. He did not expect this turn of events. First, it was the princess of the Chuyun kingdom. The moment they spoke, they wanted to capture him. It was obvious that this group of people was targeting him. Moreover, they were not only princesses of the secular world, but also immortal cultivators. Tion was not afraid of princesses of the secular world. Ever since he cultivated demonic power, he knew that there were not many people in the secular world who could pose a threat to him. However, immortal cultivators were an exception. Tion felt that although the princess's strength was below his, it was not too far apart. She was definitely still in the Qi refinement stage. Such a person was able to withstand his tiger's roar for such a long time by relying on a magic tool. If a few cultivators with higher cultivation levels were to come, he would definitely be able to withstand it. Tion was secretly on guard. He thought to himself, those immortal cultivators escaped this time. Revenge will definitely come soon. Perhaps even more powerful immortal cultivators will come here. Although I've broken through to the third tier and am equivalent to the late-stage Qi refinement stage in the immortal cultivation world, I haven't opened up my demon residence. It will be difficult for my fist to block a pack of wolves. If I continue to stay here, there won't be a good outcome. I have to move Tiger Hill Mountain as soon as possible. Tion shuddered as he thought about it. Although the princess of the Chuyun Empire had been chased away by him, the power that they had displayed had opened his eyes. Although he had long known about the existence of immortal cultivators in this world, and had even seen someone flying on a sword with his own eyes, this was the first time he had actually encountered an immortal cultivator and gotten into a fight. Those overwhelming talismans could transform into all kinds of powerful attacks: fireballs, earth spears, wind blades, and so on. These made Tion surprised and amazed at the same time. Finally, he saw the magic of the cultivators. Very powerful indeed. If Hu Shao had not blocked all of these attacks, he had a feeling that even if his body was strong, he would not have been able to block these attacks. Even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. I'm afraid those are all low-level spells from the cultivation world. Even so, they're already so powerful. If those foundation establishment and core formation stage cultivators were to attack, they would be even more powerful. My tiger roar might not even work. I can't stay here. I can't stay here any longer. I have to settle everything as soon as possible and leave this place immediately. I have to get as far away from this mountain range as possible. Tion had a thoughtful look in his eyes, and he had already made up his mind. As he thought about it, he walked. Unknowingly, he had already returned to the cave. After entering the cave and walking to the deepest part, he laid down on the ground and opened his mouth. Clink! With a crisp sound, the beast-controlling collar fell to the ground and spun a few times, which also attracted Sakura's gaze to this beast-controlling collar. He carefully sized up this strange collar. This is a Dharma artifact? Although he did not know the name of the beast collar, he had seen it grow bigger with his own eyes. It flew through the air and enveloped him. He vaguely felt as if he had met his natural enemy. He smelled danger from the beast collar. If he knew the name of the beast collar, he would not have any doubts. The beast taming collar was an unconventional magic tool that had appeared a long time ago. It had no other function other than to capture all kinds of spirit beasts and demonic beasts. Once it was worn around the neck and branded, it would be almost impossible for the beast to break free. Moreover, its power increased with the user's cultivation level. For example, if it had been an expert in the foundation building stage who had used it, Tion would not have been able to take it down so easily. It was very likely that the beast collar would have been worn around his neck. Therefore, in the world of immortal cultivators, this was the best tool to capture spirit beasts. Fortunately, the refining method of such a Dharma artifact had long been lost. There were not many left. Using one meant there would be one less. Zheng Baichuan had obtained the beast collar by accident. He knew how precious the beast collar was. Otherwise, he would never have taken out such a strange Dharma artifact in order to please the princess of Chuyun. Until now, it had fallen into Di Shirqian's hands. Although he wanted to examine the Dharma artifact in the hands of the immortal cultivator, he did not recklessly inject his demonic power into the beast collar when he recalled the dangerous aura it had emitted. After thinking for a while, he put the beast collar in front of the stone wall and dug a hole again. He took out the treasure box and the jade bottle and poured out a pill from the bottle. Then he put the treasure box, the jade bottle, and the beast collar back into the hole in the wall. Then he used his demonic power to connect the broken stones to the surrounding stone wall perfectly. Then he lay in the hole and silently activated the tiger roar technique, quickly circulating his demonic power in his meridians. The spiritual chi in the hole flowed into his body through his meridians and countless pores. Every time it circulated, his demonic power would more or less increase. In the mountain forest, a cool breeze blew, causing his clothes to flutter in the wind. On the waterfall mountain, where Di Shirqian often went to absorb the essence of the sun and the moon, there was a girl so beautiful that the world lost its color. She was dressed in white and had a ribbon in her hand. She stood in the wind like a fairy, as if she was going to be blown away by the wind. Just by standing there quietly, he caused the surrounding scenery to pale in comparison. Even the blooming flowers appeared listless, as if they were about to close up. That scene was amazing. Between her jade-like fingers was a petal. Her cherry lips moved slightly, forming a faint smile. So this little fellow hid the Imperial Sky treasure box in the stone wall and used the box's ability to conceal spiritual chi to block the spiritual chi emitted by the spirit-gathering pill. No wonder I couldn't find it after searching the entire cave. What a smart black tiger. With such intelligence, it is even more powerful than my fox clan. The girl smiled sweetly. That smile seemed to be able to move the world, brightening up the surrounding scenery. Her appearance could really move the world. If Di Shirqian was here, he would recognize that the girl in front of him was none other than the mysterious girl who had handed the Imperial Sky treasure box to him for safekeeping. It seems that this little fellow must have had a fortuitous encounter to be able to open all the meridians in his body in such a short period of time and reach the peak of demon. As long as he accumulates for a period of time, he will be able to become a demon. Interesting. I haven't seen such an interesting thing in a long time. The mysterious girl looked into the distance, as if she could see Di Shirqian in the cave. There was a hint of interest in her voice. Among the demon race, there were two reasons why they would decline in the later stages. First, there was a mysterious incident in the ancient times that caused the experts of the demon race to disappear at the same time. The intelligence of the demon race was not as high as that of humans. In the beginning, their intelligence was relatively low and they did not know how to cultivate. Even if they knew how to absorb the essence of the sun and the moon, they would not be able to accumulate enough energy to become a demon without hundreds or thousands of years. The intelligence of the demon race increased bit by bit with the accumulation of time. However, Di Shirqian was different from other demons. He was born with the intelligence of humans and knew how to think. Compared to the kings of the animals, he had a higher level of intelligence. Therefore, his performance was exceptionally different. With the help of the elixir, he could greatly reduce the time needed to cultivate. Finally, he even activated the inheritance of his bloodline. This caused his extraordinary speed of cultivation. Of course, Di Shirqian understood all these. However, in the eyes of the mysterious girl, it was extremely outstanding and unbelievable. I am not in a hurry to retrieve the Imperial Sky treasure box. Instead, I want to take a good look at this little black tiger. Who knows, it might be a wonder of the demon race. The mysterious girl smiled faintly. However, Di Shirqian did not know that he had already caught someone's attention. After returning to the cave, he swallowed the energy-gathering elixir and silently cultivated the roaring tiger technique. He had taken the energy-gathering elixir several times. This time, he had already faintly realized that the medicinal effect of the elixir was much weaker than before. He could not help but feel a little strange. However, after thinking about it for a while, he did not think too much about it. He silently cultivated the technique and quickly converted the medicinal effect into demonic power. In the past, he needed a few hours to refine a single elixir. Now, he could completely refine it in about an hour. When he was hungry, he would go out of the cave to look for prey. After swallowing, he would refine the flesh and blood and convert it into essence. He would then absorb the energy contained in the flesh and blood to strengthen his demonic power. The appearance of immortal cultivators also gave him a lot of pressure. Although he knew that cultivation was not something that could be achieved in one go, he still did not waste any time. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. A woo! A long wolf's howl suddenly rang out outside the cave. Hearing the sound, D-Shirtan, who was cultivating in the cave, immediately opened his eyes and stood up. He could tell that it was the Wolf King's voice outside. In response, he did not hesitate at all and leaped out of the cave. Baiwe must have come over because I asked him to find out the whereabouts of the kings. Now, he was extremely eager to know more about the kings in the mountain range. This was because the longer he stayed here, the more he felt an inexplicable sense of danger in his heart. Chapter 28. D-Shirtan was indeed in a hurry to leave this place. However, he definitely couldn't leave behind the intelligent kings in the mountain range. After all, he had already caused so much trouble that even the cultivators were getting involved. If he let those cultivators escape, the next time they came, it wouldn't be just a few people. They would definitely bring more powerful helpers. Although the Tiger Hill mountain range was huge, if those cultivators were determined to search, the kings hidden in the mountain range would definitely not be able to hide. They would all be discovered, captured, and turned into spirit beasts. How could D-Shirtan, who wanted to establish his power, bear to do that? Therefore, even though he knew that danger could come at any time, he still stayed in the mountain range for 3 days. He was waiting for news from Baiwe Wolf King. Only then did he hear Baiwe Wolf King's howl. He immediately woke up from his cultivation and rushed out of the cave without hesitation. "My king, I found the information you wanted me to find." Baiwe Wolf King didn't have the twisted brain of a human. When he saw a black shadow flash in front of him, D-Shirtan's tall figure appeared in front of him. He bent his 2 front legs and knelt down in front of him. He respectfully lowered his head and said, "Speak." D-Shirtan didn't have the mood to waste time here. An invisible pressure enveloped Baiwe Wolf King, causing him to become even more respectful. He hurriedly told him the information he had obtained. After hearing this, D-Shirtan finally had a rough idea. Tiger Hill mountain range was extremely wide. Although there were many ordinary animals, most of the animals that lived in groups had kings. According to Baiwe Wolf King's information, there was a valley in the east of the mountain range. There were many fruit trees in the valley. Most of them were peach trees. A group of monkeys lived there, numbering in the thousands. There was a monkey king in the group. On a mountain peak in the south, there was a group of vultures. These vultures were in flocks. In that area, they could be said to be a group of true overlords. They had the advantage of occupying the sky. Even if a tiger were to encounter them, it would have to flee. Moreover, there was a vulture with golden feathers that stood out from the rest. If nothing went wrong, it would be a condor king. Near the mountain where the bald eagle was, there was a mountain stream. Inside the mountain stream were countless venomous snakes. Usually, the area near the mountain stream was a forbidden area. Anyone who stepped inside would have no chance of returning alive. Among this group of snakes, there was also a snake king. It was a huge white python. Eagles and snakes were natural enemies. The former was almost the natural enemy of the latter. They lived not far from each other, and the fight between the two races had never stopped. Every 3 days there would be a small fight, and every 5 days there would be a big fight. The Condor King and the Snake King had fought each other many times. In 3 days, the Wolf King's subordinates could only find this place. Moreover, it was already extraordinary for a mountain range to have 3 kings with spirituality. Ape King, Condor King, Python King. Sakura quietly listened to the Wolf King's report, and a radiance burst out from his eyes. Innately intelligent animal kings were already quite rare, and he was already very satisfied to be able to find 3 of them. He said, "All right, this matter should not be delayed. Baiwa, you lead the way. First, let's go find the Ape King. This king wants to quickly subdue the other kings. Then, we will leave this mountain range." Being able to stay in this mountain range for 3 days already made him feel like there was a hidden danger in his heart. As the saying goes, a long night brings many dreams. Now that he knew the location of the other kings, what he wanted to do the most was to quickly subdue them one by one. Then, with the fastest speed, he would immediately take these future subordinates and leave this mountain range that was no longer safe. Quickly traversing through the dense forest, one after another, towering ancient trees were left behind. The wolf's speed was already very fast. As the Wolf King, Bayua's speed was naturally even faster. Running at full speed, only a white shadow was left behind in the forest. However, no matter how fast he was, Deshirtion did not leave him an inch behind, easily following him. Every jump brought about gusts of wind. This run lasted for quite a while. Finally, the Wolf King in front stopped in front of a valley. He lowered his head and said, "My king, this valley is where the group of apes live. The Ape King is also inside." Deshirtion stood at the entrance of the valley and looked inside. With a glance, he couldn't help but praise in his heart. It was indeed a good place. In a valley, fruit trees bloomed with dense branches and leaves. There were peach trees, banana trees, and so on. On the thick branches, there were bright red peaches the size of 2 fists. Bunches of bananas also covered the treetops, emitting a tempting fragrance. The continuous stretch was actually a large fruit forest. Now, he had already stepped on the path of demon cultivation and was somewhat sensitive to the changes in the world. With a slight breath, he discovered that the spiritual energy in this valley was a lot denser than in other places. If he could cultivate here, his cultivation speed would be even faster. It could be imagined that this was perhaps a place where spiritual energy gathered. Squeak, squeak! Straining his ears to listen, he heard the cries of monkeys coming from the valley one after another. If he looked carefully, he could clearly see that there were monkeys of all sizes hanging on the fruit trees. They were either baring their teeth or scratching the lice on their bodies. They held bright red fruits in their hands and took a few bites before throwing them to the ground. They were playing in the valley wantonly and were very happy in an instant. It made people feel like they couldn't bear to destroy it. It really is the Monkey Valley. This is also a good place. If I didn't have to leave this time, living here should be more beneficial to my cultivation. Deshirtion secretly pondered for a moment. His gaze quickly focused. Roar! He raised his head and opened his mouth to let out a domineering tiger's roar. Sound represented momentum. As soon as the roar came out, a thick tiger's might surged out from his body like a tide and covered the valley. The tall tiger body stood at the entrance of the valley, and the king's aura of the king of beasts was instantly revealed. Squeak, squeak! Deshirtion's tiger's roar was like a sudden clap of thunder on a sunny day. Those monkeys playing in the valley were all frightened by the sudden tiger's might and fell from the ground one by one. They all let out strange cries and fled in panic. There is a saying that when the tiger was not in the mountain, the monkeys were the overlords. However, the natural domineering aura of the king of beasts was also an incomparable deterrent to them. Moreover, the tiger's roar from Deshirtion's mouth was more breathtaking than that of an ordinary tiger. It shook people's courage. Squeak! At this moment, a roar louder than that of the other monkeys suddenly came from the depths of the valley. This sound came very quickly and was not slow. Deshirtion stood at the entrance of the valley so majestically. A pair of tiger's eyes shone brightly as he stared into the valley. When he heard the roar, the light in his eyes obviously brightened. Then he saw a golden light flash in front of him. A human-like claw with a fierce aura grabbed towards D. Shurtian's head. A fierce aura rushed towards him. When Sakura saw this, his heart was extremely calm. His head didn't move at all as he raised the tiger claw. He didn't use any demon power and only relied on the strength of his physical body to quickly raise it up. He actually appeared in front of that golden claw, even though he started later. Bang! The tiger claw and the golden claw collided with each other, and the huge force directly exploded with a muffled sound in the air. Sakura's body didn't move at all, his feet didn't tremble, and his body swayed, but he still stood as steady as Mount Tai, while the golden figure that was fiercely pouncing towards him was thrown back by this powerful force. What a strong force! Although there wasn't any change on the surface of Sakura's face, and he seemed to have easily received the attack, he was secretly surprised in his heart. The power just now was only slightly weaker than his. One must know that ever since he started to cultivate as a demon, his body was slowly strengthened under the nourishment of demon power. Whether it was the strength of his body or his strength, compared to before, he did not know how much stronger he was. But now, there was actually an animal that was comparable to him in terms of strength. He could not help but be surprised. That claw, just now, was definitely the opponent's own physical strength. There was not the slightest bit of demon power or strength mixed in. Squeak, squeak. Looking forward, D. Shurtian's eyes couldn't help but light up when he saw it. Not far in front of him, there stood a golden ape that was half the height of an adult. This ape had golden monkey hair all over its body. Its eyes were filled with deep vigilance and vigilance. It had a strong spirituality that ordinary animals did not have. From time to time, it would flash with the light of human nature. Two golden ape arms were thicker and stronger than a human's arms. Ape Monkey King, submit to this king. If you don't agree, all the monkeys in the valley will have to die. D. Shurtian roared and wanted to tell the golden ape king his intentions. In the forest, there was no need to beat around the bush. The best way was to say his intentions. The ape king's eyes lit up. He was also the king of the monkey clan. Ordinary tigers were not in his eyes at all. It was not a joke. With his strength, even if he faced an adult tiger, he could tear it into pieces. If you want me to submit, you have to defeat me. The Ape King also let out a sharp voice. In the forest, the strong were respected. If he wanted him to submit, he had to completely defeat him in terms of strength. Only then could he make him submit to D. Shurtian willingly. Of course, submission did not mean loyalty. If he wanted them to be loyal, he would have to see D. Shurtian's methods in the future. Ayo! D. Shurtian roared towards the sky. He knew that if he did not defeat the other party, he would definitely not surrender. Defeat him, and he would be able to subdue him. He was the king of all beasts. All kings had to submit to him. Chapter 29. Fight. Fight until the opponent submits. D. Shurtian did not waste any words. His two hind legs stomped on the ground, and a huge force caused his burly body to instantly soar into the air. He did not use any demon power. He wanted to test whether his body or the Ape King's was stronger. The two tiger claws pounced towards the Ape Monkey King, the sharp edge of the claws emitting a chee-chee sound in the air. It went straight for the ape's face. Squeak, squeak. The golden ape also moved. Its two monkey claws quickly danced in front of its body, as if there were suddenly many hands on its body. Streaks of sharp claws enveloped D. Shurtian's entire body. Bang, bang, bang. A series of muffled rumbling sounds were heard, and an intense battle instantly took place in the valley. D. Shurtian's gaze was sharp, and his two tiger claws carried his own domineering aura. When he waved his claws, it seemed as if there was a hidden powerful force, wanting to tear everything in front of him into pieces. His entire body had turned into a sharp weapon. His huge body was either crashing or pressing, and his huge tiger mouth also revealed sharp tiger teeth. The tail behind him was as agile as a snake, whipping out from impossible angles. If he was really hit, with his current strength, He could definitely kill a wild boar immediately. It was definitely not a good feeling. However, the Ape King was definitely not without true ability to be the king here. Its body was extremely agile as it quickly jumped around D's Shirtion. As it moved, it only brought out a series of golden afterimages. The speed of its claws waving was very fast. Often, when D's Shirtion only waved one claw, it could instantly wave 3 claws. Its performance in terms of speed could be said to be quite outstanding. This little guy is really interesting. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe that a black tiger that has not yet become a demon beast would think of subduing subordinates and accumulating a team for itself. The black tiger's intelligence is so high. This is definitely not something that those animals that have just developed intelligence can have. At this time, a mysterious woman was standing on a mountain peak not far from the Monkey Valley, looking at the battle below. The surprise in his heart grew stronger and stronger. D. Shirtion's performance was different from other spiritual monsters. Other spiritual monsters, after gaining sentience, were ignorant and ignorant. They only knew how to instinctively absorb the essence of the sun and moon and would not think of cultivating on their own. Only after becoming a demonic beast would they be able to possess intelligence comparable to humans. However, he was different. Not only did he know how to cultivate, but he also consciously began to subdue some of the kings in the mountain range that possessed spirituality. This was not something that spiritual monsters would do. Even if they became demonic beasts, they would only guard their own territory. Very few of them left. It seems that I have inadvertently met someone of my kind who is destined to shine in the immortal cultivation world. The mysterious girl pursed her lips and smiled. He didn't say anything else, quietly watching the fierce battle in the field. At this moment, the battle in the valley had reached its climax. Roar! A domineering tiger roar came out from D. Shirtion's mouth. Although he didn't use the tiger roar sound wave, the tiger roar had a strong, innate tiger aura. In an instant, the Ape King's body that was moving quickly around him suddenly paused. Although it was only for a moment, D. Shirtion needed this moment. The pitch-black tiger tail was raised high and lashed out at the Ape King. Bang! The body paused, causing a flaw to appear in its body. D. Shirtion had already calculated this, and this tail whip was just right. Almost at the moment it paused, it had already appeared beside it. It couldn't dodge even if it wanted to. Under a heavy force, the Ape King's body was thrown to one side and fell to the ground. He rolled on the ground and tried to stand up. However, this whip was deliberately calculated by D. Shirtion. The part that was whipped was not the body, but the Ape King's feet. Therefore, when it was about to stand up, it felt a sharp pain in its right leg and immediately lost its original agile speed. Roar! At this moment, D. Shirtion didn't give it any chance to react and pounced again. 2 powerful tiger claws instantly pressed down on the Ape King's 2 ape arms and threw it to the ground. The huge force made it impossible for the other party to break free. A huge tiger mouth appeared in front of the Ape King's eyes. The sharp teeth could bite its throat in the first moment. Submit or die. D. Shirtion's voice was incomparably cold. In the jungle, there was no need for mercy. The strong were respected. Now that he had defeated the Ape King, he had the qualifications to make the other party submit. Squeak, squeak. The Ape King opened its spiritual eyes, cried out twice, and slowly lowered its head. Any spiritual animal would have some concept of life and death. Moreover, D. Shirtion defeated it with his own strength, so it wasn't too difficult for it to submit. Your Majesty, your subordinate is willing to submit. Hearing the Ape King submit, D. Shirtion released the tiger claws that pressed it to the ground. Hiss! The golden ape stood up from the ground, turned around, and roared at the valley. Immediately, thousands of monkeys of all sizes ran out of the valley. Although there was still some fear in their eyes, they still quickly appeared behind the Ape King. Greetings, Your Majesty. The Ape King led the group of monkeys and formally bowed to D. Shirtion. Good. D. Shirtion nodded, looked at the Ape King, and said, From today onwards, You are the second king under this king. You are an ape. Apes go to the side and take the surname Yuan. Your claws are sharp and have the power to split the sky. I will give you the name Yuan Tian. This king, Dishir Tian, since he had already accepted it as a subordinate. It could not have a name. The ape king was born spiritual. When it heard that it had a name, it couldn't help but scratch its head with its claws in joy and was about to jump up. Its tone was more respectful as it thanked. Thank you, Your Majesty, for bestowing a name. After it finished speaking, it scratched its head again and said, Please follow me, Your Majesty. After it finished speaking, it led the group of monkeys into the depths of the valley. Dishir Tian brought the Wolf King by you and followed into the valley. Outside the valley and inside the valley had a completely different feeling. Waves of tempting fragrance continuously poured into the lungs from the nose, and a very rich spiritual energy filled the valley. It made people feel relaxed and happy. As they walked and looked, they discovered that this was indeed a rare treasure land. There were fruit trees forming a forest, and in the forest there was a clear cold pond. The water in the cold pond was not cold at the top, but the water below was bone-chilling. This was one of the most amazing things about it. After passing through the fruit forest, the front suddenly opened up. It was an empty field, but there was a huge cave in front of it. In front of the cave, there were a few tall apes guarding. The eyes of these apes were quite sharp, constantly scanning every corner. Almost nothing could escape their eyes. Seeing the ape king Yuan Tian bringing Dishir Tian and the others over, their respectful eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of fear. The natural fear of the king of beasts couldn't be shaken off. Your Majesty, please follow me into the cave. The ape king jumped into the cave with a trace of excitement in its eyes. Dishir Tian followed in. What a strong wine fragrance. As soon as he entered the cave, his nose twitched slightly. Immediately, a strong wine fragrance entered his nose. Inhaling into his lungs, he immediately felt refreshed. This was a kind of wine fragrance that he had never smelled before. The fragrance was very strange. At this moment, a thought suddenly appeared in his mind. A ball of light burst out from his eyes. Since ancient times, apes were an animal with an extremely spiritual nature. They could find all kinds of fruits to eat. However, over time, they had a unique ability to brew a strange wine. Monkey wine. Monkey wine, as the name implied, was a fruit wine brewed by monkeys. According to legend, the raw materials of the monkey wine were all carefully selected by the monkeys. Then, after being moistened by the mountain spring and fermented, the fruit wine finally formed had a sweet and mellow taste with a faint floral fragrance. No one knew what these raw materials were. Moreover, there were definitely not many who could brew such a monkey wine. If it wasn't a group of monkeys with a considerable history, it was absolutely impossible to brew it. Therefore, in this world, there were many people who knew about the monkey wine, but there were very few who had really tasted it. Any pot that was spread out would make those who loved wine break their heads. One could imagine how precious and rare it was. Originally, Dishir Tian didn't have this thought, but as soon as he entered the cave, he smelled this strange wine fragrance, and finally this idea emerged. Could it be that this cave is the place where the monkey wine is brewed? Thinking of this, the light in Dishir Tian's eyes became even stronger. He hurriedly followed the ape king's footsteps and quickly walked into the depths of the cave. The cave was not straight down. Instead, there were many curved passages. There were no traces of axe chiseling inside. It could be seen that it was a naturally formed karst cave. Now, it had been used by the monkey clan as a place to live and brew wine. After a few turns, his eyes suddenly opened up. He saw that in front of him was a hollow cave. It was very large and could accommodate hundreds of monkeys living here. However, this place was quite clean. It didn't seem to be used for living because in the middle, there was a small pool of 3 to 4 meters in size. In the pool, there was a pool full of amber, transparent liquid. Taking a deep breath, Dishir Tian was already sure in his heart. The wine fragrance that he smelled earlier was emitted from this pool. Looking at the size of this pool, the wine inside was definitely not a small amount. Beside the wine pool, there were stone ladles of various sizes. It seemed that they were used to drink wine. "Your Majesty, this is the fruit wine brewed in my clan. Your Majesty, please have a taste." When the Ape King came here, he also seemed very excited. Looking at the wine in the wine pool, he also seemed a little impatient. Chapter 30. What wine is this? Although D. Shurtion already had a plan in his heart, he still asked the Ape King Yuan Tian. In fact, he had already guessed that this was most likely the legendary monkey wine. Sure enough, the Ape King bared his teeth and scratched his head with his claws. He said, "My king, this is a recipe left behind by the ancestors of my monkey race. It needs to be hung on the mountain wall. It needs to be brewed with a type of bright red fruit and many other fruits. Every year, we can only get a small pond. We are of the monkey race, so we named the wine monkey wine. After drinking it, you can gain strength." The Ape Monkey King simply explained. The secret recipe of this monkey wine was a secret of the monkey clan. There weren't many people who knew about it. During the brewing process, the amount of ingredients needed was so much that it gave one a headache. However, Socrates didn't know about it. The bright red fruit mentioned by the Ape Monkey King was the vermilion fruit that grew on the cliffs. The vermilion fruit was a rare treasure of heaven and earth. The other fruits were even more carefully selected. They were all the best: ripe fruits, ginseng dug from the mountains, sealwort, various kinds of flowers mixed together, and cold spring water from the cold pond. The water quality was first class. With all kinds of requirements put together, one could imagine that brewing the monkey wine was definitely not an ordinary difficulty. If it wasn't a big monkey group, and if it wasn't a monkey group with a long history, then it would definitely not brew such a magical wine like the monkey wine. Voila! The Ape King quickly jumped to the side of the wine pool, grabbed a stone ladle that was used to hold wine, scooped up a ladle from the wine pool, and carefully carried it in front of D. Shurtion. D. Shurtion looked at the amber liquid in the ladle. The rich wine fragrance was continuously emitting from it. It was very tempting. He could faintly feel that there seemed to be a strange spiritual energy in this wine fragrance. Just by smelling it, one could raise one's spirit. Thinking of the Ape King's words earlier, that drinking this wine could increase one's strength, he was also moved. "Your Majesty, please taste it." The Ape King held the monkey wine and looked at D. Shurtion expectantly. D. Shurtion was already moved, so he didn't refuse. He faced the ladle and took a deep breath. Gulp! The moment he took a sip, he felt that this wine was indeed different from the rest. The amber color of the wine was sweet, and it gave him a refreshing feeling. It was as if he had tasted the wonderful taste of hundreds of spirit fruits in the world in an instant. That feeling was incomparably mystical. It flowed down his throat into his stomach. Suddenly, a gentle heat continuously rose from his stomach. It was so warm that it made people unconsciously feel intoxicated. It's really a strange wine. There's actually such a dense amount of spiritual energy in the wine. D. Shurtion was shocked. He didn't think much about it. After instructing the Wolf King to guard by his side, he directly lay on the ground and closed his eyes. The demonic power in his body was driven by him and quickly circulated, driving the surging heat in his body. Every time it circulated, a part of the heat would be converted into demonic power. There was also a lot of demonic power that merged with the flesh and blood in his body along his meridians to strengthen his physique. He only drank a ladle of monkey wine, but the spiritual energy that rose in his body was endless. Every time he refined a part of it, another part would immediately emerge from his body. This made D. Shurtion feel as if he had taken the spirit-gathering pill. However, there was a difference. The medicinal power of the spirit-gathering pill was too strong. If he wasn't careful, he would be injured. The spiritual energy in the monkey wine was quite gentle. After absorbing a part, another part would emerge. It wouldn't damage his meridians. In this aspect, it was even more magical than the spirit-gathering pill. Moreover, even if he didn't know how to refine it, this power might dissipate a lot. However, a part of it would remain in his body and slowly merge with his body as time passed. This was the reason why the Ape King said that drinking wine could increase his strength. Obviously, the Ape King didn't know how to cultivate. Otherwise, with such a pool of monkey wine, it would be better than any elixir. Drinking wine, while cultivating, would yield twice the result with half the effort. At that time, the strength of the Ape King alone wouldn't be as strong as it was now. It was possible that it would be several times, or even dozens of times stronger. This thought only turned in D. Shirtian's mind for a moment. He didn't think much about it, and threw all the thoughts to the back of his mind. This ladle of monkey wine couldn't be wasted. He had to seize the time to refine the wine. His strength would definitely be stronger again. Circulating the tiger roar technique, black gas was emitted from his body, covering D. Shirtian's body in black demonic power. It was difficult for people to see his figure from the outside. Even so, the Wolf King Baiyu and the Ape King were loyally guarding the surroundings. Their eyes were shining brightly, not allowing anyone to approach. This meditation, after a full 2 hours. Swoosh! The black demonic power that enveloped his body rolled violently and was quickly retracted back into his body. D. Shirtian suddenly stood up, full of energy. His 2 eyes emitted a threatening light, and the tiger's might on his body became stronger and stronger. What a magical spirit wine! It's even more magical than the spirit-gathering pill. A ladle of monkey wine is actually comparable to 2 spirit-gathering pills. No wonder everyone wants to taste the monkey wine. Ordinary people can prolong their lives after drinking it. D. Shirtian couldn't help but sigh. There was actually such a magical wine in this world. Previously, he was still thinking that he had already used more than a dozen spirit-gathering pills. The rest could only support him until he could accumulate enough demonic power to fill the meridians in his body and raise his cultivation to the peak of the 3rd level. After opening up the demon mansion, there would be no shortcuts for him to cultivate further. He didn't expect to find a spirit wine like the monkey wine here today. With these spirit wines, he could completely support his cultivation for a long time. The most important thing was that even if the monkey wine was finished, with the Ape King and his monkey descendants, they could find the raw materials and continue to brew it. It didn't need to be like the spirit-gathering pill. If it was used up, there would be no other way to obtain it. Yuan Tian, can you still brew this monkey wine? D. Shirtian had a plan in his heart. He turned his head and looked at the Ape King with sparkling eyes. He asked, King, to brew the monkey wine as long as there are materials and fruits. However, the amount that can be brewed every year is very limited. Many of the materials are difficult to find. The Ape King was also clever. Hearing D. Shirtian's question, he vaguely understood that he wanted this monkey wine. Yuan Tian, immediately bring your people to the forest to find bamboo. Use the bamboo tube to store all the monkey wine. Once it's done, I will teach you the secret cultivation method in the future. It will allow you to have powerful strength. As D. Shirtian spoke, he raised his tiger claw and lightly waved it to the stone wall not far away. Suddenly, a pitch-black tiger claw condensed in front of him and bombarded the stone wall with lightning speed. Boom! An incomparably huge, deep hole split open on the stone wall. Countless shattered stones surged and shot out in all directions. They hit the ground, bursting out waves of light sounds. This method made the Ape King's eyes light up. This kind of strength had completely exceeded the Ape King's imagination. All along, he had only been using his own body. Although he often drank the monkey wine, he didn't know how to cultivate and wasted most of the wine's power in vain. Humans weren't the only ones who yearned for strength. In this world that followed the law of the jungle and respected the strong, they yearned for strength even more. Therefore, when he saw D. Shirtian's magical attack, the Ape King's heart was filled with yearning. Of course, he had more respect and loyalty towards D. Shirtian in his heart. Subduing people not only required strength, but also a combination of kindness and authority. Yes, my king. Yuan Tian will definitely do it well. The Ape King didn't feel too sorry for this pool of monkey wine. At that time, he patted his chest loudly. Also, be prepared to move out of Tiger Hill mountain range at any time. This mountain range is no longer safe. In 1 or 2 days, we will have to leave. Tian also passed down the things that needed to be done. Now that the Ape King had been subdued, only the Condor King and the Python King needed to be subdued. Once they were subdued, they couldn't stay in this mountain range for even a moment longer. They had to leave this place as soon as possible. The further they left, the better. There was no need to think too much about other things, as long as they could escape from the upcoming danger. At that time, relying on himself and the few kings under him, they could completely occupy a mountain forest in other places and establish a foundation. As for the secret cultivation technique, since he decided to establish his own force, he didn't intend to hide it. It wasn't enough to be strong by himself. Only by establishing a strong force could he truly have a certain degree of deterrence, so that everyone who wanted to attack him would think twice before making a move. Therefore, Tian had long planned to impart some cultivation techniques to the kings under him as soon as they were out of danger. They would embark on the path of demon cultivation together. Well, let's go. We will go to the next place. Let's go to Condor Peak. Tian called out. The Wolf King immediately understood and left the cave. It led the way and ran quickly in the direction of Condor Peak. After they left, the Ape King also took action. It immediately ordered the monkeys to go to the nearby bamboo forest to look for bamboo. At the same time, it was also actively preparing for the migration. Tian was urgently preparing to leave Tiger Hill mountain range. At this moment, the princess of Chu Yun and the others who escaped from him 3 days ago did something else. Senior brother Duanqing, this time your family helped. Chu Yun will definitely thank you in the future. In an abandoned mountain village at the edge of Tiger Hill mountain range, a clear and pleasant voice sounded. Following the voice, they saw that the princess of Chu Yun, who had escaped from the mountain range earlier, was walking with a handsome man with a smile on her face. Not far behind the two of them, Zheng Baichuan and Qin Hai were indignant. Their eyes never left the two of them. He looked at the princess of the Chu Yun Empire with adoration, but when he looked at the man, his gaze was sharp. Chapter 31. If looks could hurt, the man would have been riddled with holes by now. Don't worry, junior sister Yin. Coincidentally, my Li family has encountered this matter. If we don't help, Xianxun will definitely be punished by my father when he returns. Please don't worry, junior martial sister. Xianxun went out to experience the world and was accompanied by 2 elders of the family. They are both foundation establishment stage experts. Wait a moment, I will personally ask the 2 elders for help. Given how much the elders love me, they will definitely agree to help. When the time comes, it will be a piece of cake to subdue the black tiger demon in the forest. The young man, namely Xianxun, was very elegant. It could be seen that he was trying to curry favor with the princess of Chu Yun. Thank you, senior brother. The princess of Chu Yun smiled sweetly at Li Xianxun. Li Xianxun was stunned, and his eyes were filled with infatuation. Smack! Behind them, Qin Hai and Li Xianxun were so jealous that they almost went crazy. They slapped the tree beside them, causing the tree to shake violently and the leaves to fall. Speaking of this incident, it happened 3 days ago. At that time, the princess of Chu Yun and the others used the divine travel talisman to escape quickly. Tian was blocked by Zheng Baichuan's talismans, and they immediately disappeared without a trace. The divine travel talisman could allow one to travel 1,000 miles in a day. It was not an exaggeration. It did not take long for them to rush out of the mountain range. However, they did not return to the place where they entered. Instead, they appeared in another direction of the mountain range. As they were afraid that Tian would chase after them, they did not stop after leaving the mountain range. They continued to fly forward for a long distance. But they did not expect that this was also a coincidence. Along the way, they actually ran into Li Xiangchen, who had come out to train. Speaking of Li Xiangchen, his background was not simple. In this world, there was a difference between the secular world and the immortal cultivation world. Generally speaking, people in the immortal cultivation world rarely interacted with the secular world. They wholeheartedly devoted themselves to the path of immortal cultivation and seized every inch of time to cultivate. They hoped to break through to a higher level before their lifespan ran out. Therefore, although there were legends of immortal cultivators in the secular world, they were rarely seen. However, there was a special case, and that was the cultivation families. It was a cultivation aristocratic family. Speaking of which, this aristocratic family was actually a family-style cultivation clan. For example, if a disciple of a sect in the immortal cultivation world felt that he could not achieve much on the path of immortal cultivation, he would go down the mountain and marry a wife and have children in the secular world. There was a high chance that the bloodline of an immortal cultivator would give birth to an offspring with spiritual roots. After that, they would pass down the cultivation techniques to their descendants, allowing them to embark on the path of cultivation. After a few decades, or even 100 years, they would be able to form a cultivation family. This kind of cultivation clan not only had a certain connection with the cultivation world, but also couldn't be separated from the secular world. It was a very special existence. However, some of the big families that had been passed down for hundreds or thousands of years were often quite powerful. Some of the super families were almost comparable to the cultivation sects in the immortal cultivation world. Within the aristocratic families, there was an even stricter division. For example, in a family, only a few people with spiritual roots who had yet to reach the foundation establishment stage would be classified into the lowest third-rate aristocratic families. Those with foundation establishment experts could be called second-rate aristocratic families. A clan that has a completion-level powerhouse is considered to be one of the top clans. As for super aristocratic families, which are the top cultivation families, they had nascent soul-old monsters in the family. Such aristocratic families were completely comparable to those sects in the immortal cultivation world. Usually, the strength they had accumulated was quite large. As for Li Xiangchen, he happened to be the young master of the Li family, a first-rate aristocratic family. There was a core formation expert in the family, and the aristocratic family was located in the Chu country. After the two of them walked together for a while, Princess Chu Yun found an excuse and returned to her room. Looking at Princess Chu Yun, who had returned to her room, Li Xiangchen's eyes were no longer infatuated with her. He also turned and left, entering a relatively good-looking wooden house in the mountain village. As soon as he entered, he saw two middle-aged men silently sitting cross-legged in the house, meditating. Second uncle, third uncle, Chen has just followed your instructions and agreed to Princess Chu Yun's request to enter the mountain to help her catch the black tiger that has already cultivated into a demon. Li Xiangchen respectfully reported to the two of them. Hearing the voice, the one on the left opened his eyes slightly and looked at him. He nodded approvingly and said, "Xiangchen, you did well. Remember, catching the black tiger is a small matter. As long as you have a relationship with the Chu family, it's best if you win the heart of the Chu family's little princess. That will bring countless benefits to our entire family. Chen, your second uncle is right." At this time, the other person also opened his eyes and said gently, "Although our Li family has an ancestor and is squeezed into a first-rate cultivation family, compared to the Chu family, we are just ants in front of an elephant. As long as you can establish a relationship with the Chu family's little princess, not only will our family's status be stable, we might even have a chance to produce a nascent soul expert." Xiangchen understands. Li Xiangchen's eyes flashed, and he hurriedly agreed. He couldn't help but say, "Chen promised Princess Chu Yun that he would enter the mountain tomorrow to help her catch the black tiger. According to what they said, the black tiger is no small matter. I'm afraid we'll have to ask second uncle and third uncle to help. Don't worry. When you're in danger, your third uncle and I will naturally rescue you." "Thank you, second uncle, third uncle." Li Xiangchen respectfully bowed and left the wooden house. In the wooden house where the princess of Chu Yun lived, a strange expression appeared on her face. She looked outside the house and muttered, "I originally planned to send a letter to ask my family to send someone over to help. However, that would definitely alarm the rest of the family. If they knew that I was almost in danger, it would be difficult for me to come out again. Now that I've met the Li family, they will definitely help me. I can use them to help me catch the black tiger." As she spoke, she waved her small fists in the air a few times. Her eyes revealed a trace of craftiness as she said, "Black tiger, you can't escape. The more powerful you are, the more I want to catch you and make you my spiritual beast." As a woman of the royal family, how could she look at him with the eyes of an ordinary woman? She might suffer a great loss if she did not do so. Nevertheless, under the lead of Wolf King, they ran continuously for more than 2 hours before finally arriving in front of a towering mountain peak. What a dangerous mountain peak. Di Shirtian stood at the foot of the mountain and looked up at the sky. Naturally, a thought came to his mind. The mountain was filled with strange stones and steep cliffs. Even a martial arts master would find it difficult to climb such a mountain. If one was not careful, they would fall from the mountainside and be smashed to pieces. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, it was really quite frightening. Moreover, this mountain peak was bare. There was not a single plant or tree to be seen. It looked very lifeless. As soon as one got close to it, one would feel a stifling aura. However, there were many caves of various sizes on this cliff. They could vaguely see that there were figures moving in the caves. "Your Majesty, this is the place where the group of vultures live." Wolf King looked around and reported to Di Shirtian. Actually, Sakura had already seen through the dangers of this mountain. Moreover, the vulture had always liked to live on the precipitous cliffs. By digging a cave on top of it, they could shelter themselves, and it was still relatively safe. It could be said that this was the most suitable place for vultures to live. The surroundings were extremely quiet. Well, Di Shirtian jumped on a big rock and took a deep breath. On his forehead, the purple king pattern kept jumping like a flame. He opened his mouth and let out a tiger's roar that shook the sky. Oh, whoa! The tiger's roar sounded in this silent place. It was like a sudden thunderclap, shaking heaven and earth. The tiger's roar was long and continuous. The domineering tiger's power and a natural king's aura filled heaven and earth with the tiger's roar. It had an impulse to make people kneel at its feet. In the roar, there was a trace of the domineering and strong sense of provocation. Oh, the tiger's roar enveloped the entire mountain peak, startling a large flock of vultures on the cliff. These vultures felt the strong and domineering aura of the tiger, causing them to lose their heads out of fear and fly randomly in the air. His eyes were filled with fear as he looked at the black tiger below. Oh, just at this moment, a sharp chirp appeared in the sky. Although the sound wasn't as loud as Sakura's, it was still quite sharp. Hearing this chirp, those vultures that were flying in panic suddenly seemed to have found their backbone. They calmed down one after another and looked towards the highest mountain peak. Whoosh! A loud wind blew. Looking up, one could see a giant vulture that was 10 times larger than the average vulture flying out. There was a tuft of golden feathers on its head. Its beak was unusually sharp, and its 2 eyes were as sharp as arrows. It seemed to be able to pierce through people alive. The 2 claws below its body were like hooks, flashing with a terrifying cold light. 1 claw could cover a person's head, and in an instant, it would tear a few big holes and tear the head off. It could be seen that it was quite terrifying. Needless to say, this was the king of the vultures, the Vulture King. The Vulture King was startled by Di Shirtian's tiger's roar that was filled with provocation. In the face of provocation, no king could avoid it. Once they did, they would lose all their prestige in the tribe, and they would no longer be the king of the tribe. Oh, the vulture spread its huge wings and flapped them a few times in the air. Suddenly, it bent down and stretched out 2 sharp claws, grabbing towards Di Shirtian without hesitation. The attack came without any warning. It only wanted to kill D. Shirtion in one hit. Chapter 32. In the forest, there was no such thing as a prelude to a battle, such as good and evil have always been at odds, or evil can never triumph over good. These were all bullshit. There was only one way to deal with a provocator, and that was to kill him. Of course, there was no need to give him any hints. Good timing. D. Shirtyen's eyes narrowed. Even though he was one of the strongest demons, he couldn't fly. He knew too few spells, almost none, other than the Tiger Roar Sonic Wave. He had learned the rest by himself. The Condor was the king of the sky, and he was the overlord of the ground. If the Condor King didn't come down, he would have to use the Tiger Roar Sonic Wave to deal with him. The claws of the vulture were incomparably sharp, with a yellow metallic luster on them. They were wide open, bringing with them a sharp aura as they swooped down from the sky. The claws pierced through the air, creating a sharp sound as they rubbed against the air. Sakura's body emitted an awe-inspiring tiger aura. The pride of being the king of all beasts made him not even blink his eyes when facing this fierce attack. He allowed the fierce claw wind to appear above his head, stimulating the fur on his head to explode like a hedgehog standing up. The purple mark on his forehead was like a purple flame dancing. Roar! He let out a deep roar. Then two beams of frightening light burst out from his eyes. Following a swooshing sound, a black ball of demon power emerged from his head, shielding his head. Pooh! The demonic aura appeared at the perfect time. As soon as it appeared, the two claws of the vulture landed on the black mist formed by the demonic aura. The black mist rolled violently like cotton, soft and without any force, negating the sharp attack of the vulture's claws. At the same time, D. Shirtion raised one of his tiger claws and slashed at the Condor King. Swoosh! A sharp claw slashed through the air, bringing with it a deep black light, and landed on the Condor King's right wing. Roar! The Condor King screamed in pain. There were a few more cuts on his wing, and fresh blood dripped down. But how could the Condor King admit defeat like this? The feathers on its wings contracted rapidly, quickly closing the wound. It temporarily stopped the bleeding. It lowered its head and opened its beak, which was like a sharp cone, to peck at D. Shirtyen's left eye. The eagle's beak didn't reach him, but the sharpness of its beak seemed like it was going to cut open a wound on his body and blind D. Shirtyen's eyes. On the pair of wings, the feathers looked like they were made of iron. When all of them were spread out, they were more than a meter wide. While attacking the Sakura's eyes, the pair of wings didn't stop and slapped down on his body. Whoosh whoosh. Strong wind with heavy pressure shrouded the Sakura's body. If one was really hit by this pair of iron wings, even a stone would be smashed into pieces. From the very beginning, the Condor King had no intention of showing any mercy. He was going for the kill. If it had been an ordinary tiger, there was no way he would have been able to dodge that claw alone. If he were to be caught, he would have been sent flying off the ground. He would have been able to tear the other party into two with just a tug of his claws. The eagle's beak was vicious. If he were to peck at the eye, he would have been instantly blinded. A pair of iron wings would have taken half his life. Roar! However, D. Shirtion did not panic in the face of such a ferocious attack. His eyes were still calm, revealing traces of coldness. The aura of a king quickly spread out from his body. Bang! A dull sound rang out in front of him. Just as the eagle's beak was about to peck at his eye, a pitch-black tiger claw blocked the eagle's beak. The sharp eagle's beak collided with the tiger's claw, producing a metallic sound. The tiger's tail behind him was like a long whip, emitting a dark glow. He turned his waist and lashed out at the pair of iron wings. Bang! The iron wings contained the power of thousands of kilograms. D. Shirtyen's tail also contained a large amount of power. Just in case, he had even infused his demon energy into the tail. Immediately, with a dull sound, the condor was sent flying into the sky by the explosive force from the tail. Roar! However, as the king of his tribe, the Condor King would not admit defeat so easily. He flapped his wings and circled in the air. He He made full use of his advantage in the air and continuously attacked Tion. Sharp claws, sharp beak, and a pair of iron wings with frightening strength. Every part of his body was used to attack. Sakura wasn't afraid at all. No matter how ferocious the Vulture King's attacks were, he was still able to deal with them calmly. Again and again, he blocked the Vulture King's attacks and launched a sharp attack at any time to counterattack. This intense battle caused the Wolf King and the group of condors in the sky to look on with shock and fear. This kind of battle was completely different from the slaughter of ordinary animals. Almost every attack from the two of them far exceeded that of ordinary animals. Bang! Tion and the Condor King clashed again. Tiger claws and eagle claws exploded with a tyrannical force. Tion's body was incomparably strong, and with his demon energy, he easily withstood the force of the recoil. However, the Condor King was forcefully sent flying into the air. It let out a high-pitched screech and was about to attack again. Tion's expression was cold. "I can't waste time here. Let's stop here. I still have to find a white python later. I don't have so much time to waste here." That's right. He was just testing the Condor King's strength. If he wanted to take it down, with his ability, he would not have needed so much time. Now that he was almost done, he did not want to waste any more time. Although Tion could not fly, he had a powerful ability that allowed him to ignore distance. Ooh! Taking a deep breath, his tiger body trembled. The domineering aura of a tiger spread out in all directions like a tide. His body suddenly became one size larger. Raising his head, the purple mark on his forehead became even more lifelike. It was incomparably terrifying. Roar! A tyrannical tiger roar came out from Tion's mouth. This roar was like a thunderstorm. Naturally, the tiger roar contained the supreme tiger aura of the king of beasts. When it landed in the ears of the condors in the sky, they only felt a buzzing sound in their heads. Their minds went blank, and their wings did not listen to them. One by one, they fell to the ground. The Condor King, who was originally charging towards Tion, heard this tyrannical tiger roar. His head was also buzzing. He only felt that his body was incomparably heavy, and he fell straight down. Without waiting for Sakura to really use the tiger's roar sound wave, he was shaken down by this shocking and overbearing tiger's roar. Bang! The Condor King's body was huge and was relatively sturdy. When he fell to the ground, he did not die. However, he let out a shocking cry. He was dizzy from the fall and did not immediately get up. Swoosh! Just as it was about to get up, a huge tiger claw pressed down heavily on its back. No matter how it struggled, it was unable to get up from under the tiger claw. Sakura knew that his tiger's roar contained demonic energy. Once the demonic energy was infused into the tiger's roar, the might of the tiger's roar would multiply. This tyrannical tiger's roar, when it entered the ears, no one would be able to block it. The Condor King did not have any demon energy. How could he guard against this move? He was hit on the spot, and his mind went blank from shock. In the blink of an eye, the tables had turned. In an instant, he was defeated by Tion. Condor King, submit or die. Tion's incomparably cold voice traveled into the Condor King's ears. When the Condor King heard this, his expression became quite dispirited. He looked at the Wolf King, standing respectfully at the side. How could he not know that the Wolf King was also the king of the wolf pack? Now, it must have submitted to the Tiger King beside it. Although it was a little dispirited, it also knew that it had already lost, and thoroughly lost. It did not want to die, so when it looked at the black tiger above its head, it finally lowered its proud head and cried out, "My king, I am willing to submit." As soon as it said this, it felt that the tiger claw that was originally pressing on its back had already left in the blink of an eye. The Condor King stood up, but did not fly into the sky. Instead, it respectfully lowered its head towards Tion. Submission was submission. They would not be like some humans, submitting one day and then betraying the next. Good, Condor King. Since you have submitted, I will bestow upon you a true name. Condor, the sky is vast. From today onwards, you will be called Condor Kong. Every king that submitted to Di Shirtion would personally give them a name. Firstly, it was convenient to address them. Secondly, it was to give them a name. It was also a form of kindness. This was because animals did not have a name. It was impossible for them to give it themselves. Now that they were able to get their own name, it was definitely a joyous occasion. As expected, when the Condor King heard that it was given a name, it was also overjoyed. It willingly nodded its head towards Di Shirtion 3 times on the ground. It was a sign of submission. After stopping at the foot of the Condor Mountain for a while and giving the Condor King some instructions, Di Shirtion followed the Wolf King to the nearby mountain stream where the white python was hidden. Subduing a king could not be done carelessly. It had to be done personally. The mountain stream was not far away. It was only a few dozen miles away from the Condor Mountain. They passed through the dense forest. He heard the tinkling of water as the mountain spring flowed by, crisp and pleasant to the ear. Before they arrived, Di Shirtion could already feel the thick water vapor. However, looking at the sky, they did not stop to rest in the forest. They ran to the territories of the 2 kings and cultivated in the Monkey Valley for a while. Now, the sky was starting to darken. Seeing this situation, Sakura didn't harshly rush to look for the white python. Instead, he stopped at a place near the mountain stream and found an open space to rest, preparing to stay for the night. The Wolf King rushed into the forest and soon came back with 2 tall stags. Di Shirtion did not eat much. He quickly finished one and then lay on the ground, cultivating under the moonlight. The climax is coming. Please vote, please vote. There are too few votes. I hope those who still have votes can help. Chapter 33. Using his cultivation technique, he refined the blood in his stomach bit by bit into essence chi that could be absorbed and integrated into his meridians. As his demonic power circulated, it was quickly converted into demonic power, causing it to become even stronger. At the same time, the 108,000 pores all over his body opened at the same time. As he breathed, they opened and closed as if they were also breathing. The essence of the sun and moon around him was quickly absorbed into his body through his meridians and pores. A ball of black demonic aura slowly spread out from his body and enveloped his entire body. In the haze, only a vague figure could be seen. After Wolf King finished eating the other deer, he saw the scene of Sakura cultivating, and his eyes revealed traces of reverence and envy. He laid nearby, and his eyes were brimming with vigor like lightning as he helped to guard at the side. In its heart, it only knew that its king was very powerful. As long as it roared slightly, it could kill countless powerful humans with its roar. It had all kinds of magical abilities. As long as it was loyal, it would definitely have such abilities in the future. Time quietly passed by like this. In the blink of an eye, day and night alternated. The darkness gradually receded, and the sun slowly rose from the east. At this moment, in the small mountain village where the princess of Chu Yun and the others were staying, a group of people was ready to set off. The princess of Chu Yun, Li Xiangchen, Zheng Baichuan, Qin Hai, and the maidservant walked into Tiger Hill mountain range together after washing up early in the morning. Senior brother Li, why didn't the 2 seniors enter the mountain with us this time? That black tiger is too powerful. I'm afraid that those below the foundation establishment stage can't do anything to it. The princess of Chu Yun said to Li Xiangchen with a smile as she walked in the forest and looked left and right. That's right, Zheng Baichuan said sarcastically. Brother Li, don't be careless. You have to know that the princess and I suffered greatly last time. None of the accompanying guards survived. They all died under the claws of the black tiger. No matter how strong Brother Li is, you haven't reached the foundation establishment stage. If you encounter the black tiger, I'm afraid there was no need to say the whole thing. As long as the meaning was expressed, it was enough. Everyone could understand the meaning of this sentence. Faintly, there was a trace of provocation. The moment Li Xiangchen arrived, he attracted almost all of the attention of the princess of Chu Yun. He was already interested in the princess, So how could he not have any resentment? Now that he had entered the mountain, he did not hide it and spat out his provocative words. Not bad. Black Tiger is very strong. At this time, Qin Hai was also on the same side as Zheng Baichuan. Although it was only a few words, the meaning behind it was that Zheng Baichuan was not as good as Black Tiger. Huh, don't be afraid. Hearing this, Li Xiangqin's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness, but he smiled and said, "We will walk in front. My second uncle and third uncle are already foundation establishment stage experts. They will follow behind us. As long as we really encounter danger, they will naturally appear. Besides, that Black Tiger might not be as strong as you all described it to be." Although Dustfall's cultivation base was only at the 7th level of Qi refining, he was cherished by the elders of his clan. For the sake of this experiential learning, he was given some treasures to protect himself. Presumably, dealing with Black Tiger shouldn't be a problem. Towards the end, there was a faint arrogance in his expression. Obviously, he was quite confident in his own strength. In fact, he didn't believe that there would be any powerful spirit beasts in the mountains of the secular world. At most, it would be animals that had just been born with spirituality. Senior Brother Li is indeed thoughtful. With 2 seniors watching behind us, this time, we will definitely be able to capture Black Tiger easily, Princess Chu Yun said sweetly to Li Xiangqin. However, she thought in her heart, "Idiot, if I didn't need to borrow the power of your Li family to subdue Black Tiger, why would I care about 2 mere foundation establishment stage cultivators? After achieving my goal, see how I will deal with you." Big Brother Qin, do you still remember the way to the place where we met Black Tiger a few days ago? At this time, Princess Chu Yun asked Qin Hai. The Tiger Hill mountain range was very big. If he really wanted to search inch by inch, he was afraid that it would take a very long time. The place where he fought with the Black Tiger just now was a very good clue. Maybe if he was lucky, he would be able to find the Black Tiger there. Therefore, their goal was to find the place where the wolf pack had gathered. "Princess, don't worry. Although we fled in a hurry, I have been in the army before. I have already memorized a route along the way. As long as we keep going in this direction, it won't take long for us to reach the place where we fought last time," Qin Hai said confidently. "Yes, this time, I will definitely capture that Black Tiger and make him my spirit beast." Princess Chu Yun nodded excitedly. As long as she wanted something, there was nothing she couldn't get. This time, Black Tiger was no exception. As they walked and talked, time passed quickly. Unknowingly, the group had already arrived at the cave where the wolf pack had lived. With this look, their faces involuntarily changed. There was no longer any Black Tiger or wolf pack in front of him. There was only a pile of white bones. It could be seen that these were all human skeletons. The flesh on their bodies had all been bitten off, leaving only white skeletons. There were hundreds of skeletons. Needless to say, they were probably the group of guards and Jianghu people who had been killed by Di Shitian's roar back then. So what if they were dead? Their corpses had long been eaten by the wolf pack. The wolf pack has been led away, and Black Tiger isn't here. Looking at the traces around, I'm afraid that the wolf pack hasn't appeared here for several days. Qin Hai looked around and quickly analyzed. When Zheng Baichuan arrived, his eyes widened. He kept looking around carefully, trying to find something. After looking around several times, he still didn't find anything. He finally gave up and thought to himself, "That's impossible." At that time, the beast collar clearly fell around here. I could not be here. Very few people come to the mountain range. It shouldn't have been taken away. Strange. Too strange. What he was looking for was that beast collar. Such a treasure was very rare in the cultivation world. Losing it all of a sudden was like losing a large piece of his flesh. His heart ached terribly. Now that he was here, he wanted to find it and see if he could get it back. When Li Xiangqin heard this, he revealed a smile that he thought was quite charming and said, "Junior Sister Yin, don't panic. Xiangqin has already prepared." As he spoke, he reached out and took out an ancient compass from his storage bag. This compass was very strange. Its appearance was almost similar to the compass used by geomancers on Earth. There were 3 needles inside. The length was different. The longest one was brass in color, the second longest one was silver in color, and the shortest one was gold in color. There were small talismans on these 3 needles. In the middle of the compass, there was a sparkling white jade bead. It faintly emitted a white jade light, revealing a strange power. It was inlaid in the compass. It could be said that it was natural, without a single gap. It was as if it was fused together by nature. There were various mysterious patterns engraved all around. It appeared to be quite ancient and extraordinary. Psychic compass? Seeing this ancient compass, Princess Chu Yun and Zheng Baichuan couldn't help but change their expressions at the same time. They couldn't help but cry out in surprise. Their eyes fell on the compass and never left it. Obviously, they were quite shocked by this compass. Li Xiangqun smiled proudly and said, "Junior Sister Yun, you have good eyesight. This is indeed a psychic compass." As he spoke, he paused and looked at the compass in his hand and said, "This belongs to my second uncle. Third uncle knew that we were going into the mountains to look for black tiger, so he specially lent it to me for a period of time. Speaking of which, I also benefited from Junior Sister Yin. If not for you, I'm afraid third uncle might not have handed this compass to me." Speaking of this compass, it was very famous. It was not hard to imagine that if it was an ordinary item, the Princess of Chu Yun and the others would not be so surprised when they saw it. They couldn't help but cry out in surprise. The name of the compass was the Psychic Compass. The strange thing about this compass was that it was able to help people find items with spiritual energy and spirituality. It could be said that this was a treasure that was specially used to find treasures. It did not have any attack power, but as a rare treasure, it was a treasure that everyone coveted. There was a jade bead in this compass. This bead could be said to be the most important item in this compass. It was called a psychic bead and was very rare. It was said that this psychic bead was formed from the inner core of a spirit beast called the treasure-seeking beast after special refinement. It was born with the ability to sense all kinds of treasures. Combined with the compass, it used 3 needles to point to the target. Among them, the longest copper needle could sense whether there were treasures within a 1-mile radius after it was activated. Beyond this range, it could not sense anything. The second silver needle could sense the spiritual energy within a 10-mile radius. Within this range, there were basically no treasures that could escape its senses. The last golden needle could sense the aura of treasures within a 100-mile radius. Nothing with spirituality could escape its detection. It was extremely magical. In a world of immortal cultivators, the psychic compass was a treasure that everyone dreamed of. With it in hand, whether it was searching for treasures or people, it was extremely easy. There would definitely not be a tragic situation where one encountered a treasure and missed it. Who would not want to obtain such a rare treasure? However, such a rare treasure was naturally not something that could be obtained by just anyone. This was because the psychic bead was rare. Moreover, the refining method of the psychic compass was an ancient secret method. Very few people knew about it now, and it was almost lost. There were very few psychic compasses that were passed down. Those that could obtain them would all treat them as treasures. They would not be easily taken out and shown to others. After all, in the world of immortal cultivators, it was very common to kill for treasures. Chapter 34. This time, Li Xiangqun took it out for 2 reasons. First, this psychic compass was the family treasure of the Li family. It already had the Li family seal on it. Even greedy people would give them some face when they knew that it was the Li family. After all, the Li family had a senior in the core formation stage. It was comparable to some small and medium-sized sects. Ordinary thieves would not dare to have any ideas about such a family. Secondly, Li Xiangqun knew very well what kind of person the Princess of Chu Yun was, and so did the 2 foundation establishment experts behind her. With her family background, there was no need for her to covet the psychic compass. If that was the case, the Li family might very well hand over the psychic compass to them in order to establish a relationship with the Chu family. Furthermore, this was the secular world. With 2 foundation establishment stage experts protecting her, there was no need to be afraid of any accidents. This time, he brought the psychic compass because he wanted to come out for training. He wanted to see if he could find some spiritual items with spiritual energy along the way and find some medicinal herbs. If he was lucky, he might even find a small spiritual mine. If that was the case, he would really be very lucky. With a spiritual mine, it would be enough to support a family for hundreds of years. Originally, the psychic compass was with the 2 foundation establishment stage experts. After knowing that they were going to enter the mountain, the 2 of them discussed and temporarily handed the compass to Li Xiangqun. Now that he took it out, he could show off in front of the princess of Chuyuan. Naturally, it was necessary for him to take it out. That's great. With the psychic compass, it will be easy to find that black tiger. The princess of Chuyuan was clearly aware of the magical power of this treasure. She couldn't help but be in high spirits. She clenched her small fists and said excitedly, "Junior Sister Yun, please wait. To activate the compass, you need a high-grade spiritual stone." As Li Xiangqun spoke, he reached out and put it into his storage bag. When he took it back, there was a crimson crystal half the size of a fist in his hand. As soon as the crystal appeared, a strong fire-type spiritual chi spread out from it. The crimson light kept flowing back and forth on the crystal. It was crystal clear like a gem. A high-grade fire spiritual stone. Zheng Baichuan let out a cry of surprise as he stared at the crystal. One had to know that in the immortal cultivation world, spirit stones had different attributes and grades. Among them, the 5 most common elements were metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Other than these, there were also thunder spirit stones, ice spirit stones, and other spirit stones that were derived from the 5 elements. As for the grades of spirit stones, from low to high, they were low grade, middle grade, high grade, and top grade. Among them, low-grade spirit stones were the most common. It was the unit used for trading in the immortal cultivation world. The amount used for trading had always been based on low-grade spirit stones. For example, a talisman required 1 spirit stone, and the 1 spirit stone here was a low-grade spirit stone. 100 low-grade spirit stones could only be exchanged for 1 mid-grade spirit stone, and so on. Every increase in grade required 100 times more than the previous one to match. In the immortal cultivation world, low-grade spirit stones were very common. However, mid-grade spirit stones were much rarer than low-grade spirit stones. Even a spirit stone mine might not be able to dig out a few high-grade spirit stones. They were especially precious. As for the top grade, it was impossible to find it in a spirit stone mine unless it was a large one. The top-grade spirit stone was a type of spirit stone that everyone coveted. The spirit chi contained in it was not only pure, but also extremely large. The most precious thing was that after the spirit chi inside was absorbed, it could automatically absorb the spirit chi of heaven and earth to recover. This meant that the top-grade spirit stone could be used repeatedly. It was not like other spirit stones, which would be wasted as soon as the spirit chi was absorbed. It could be imagined that as long as there was a top-grade spirit stone, it was equivalent to carrying an endless supply of spirit stones. In the future, unless there were any accidents, there would be no need to worry about spirit stones. Although it was not a top-grade spirit stone, the high-grade spirit stone that Li Xiangqun took out was extremely rare. After countless years of mining, most of the spirit stones have been exhausted. Ordinary people might not even be able to take a look at a high-grade spirit stone. Li Xiangqun smiled indifferently, took the spirit stone in his hand, and carefully placed it in a groove at the bottom of the compass. The spirit stone was perfectly embedded in the compass. At this moment, a crimson red light flashed across the compass. Buzz! With a crisp sound, the psychic compass in Li Xiangqun's hand was seen at this moment. At this moment, the psychic compass in Li Xiangqun's hand was seen exuding a trace of spiritual power. The needle in the compass began to flicker with spiritual light, and it began to rotate in circles. However, only 2 of the 3 needles in the compass moved. They were the copper needle and the silver needle. To use the psychic compass, one must be supported by spirit stones. A mid-grade spirit stone could support the psychic compass to use the first psychic needle to search for things with spirit chi within a mile of the compass. A high-grade spirit stone could use the second psychic needle. The second psychic needle could search within a radius of 10 miles. As for the third psychic needle, it required a top-grade spirit stone. Buzz! The psychic compass could now search for everything within a radius of 10 miles. However, the two moving needles continued to rotate in the compass without any signs of stopping. This meant that there was nothing in this area that was worthy of the psychic compass's attention. That's great. With the psychic compass, as long as we walk faster, it won't take long for us to find the whereabouts of Black Tiger. The princess of Chu Yun blinked, her eyes filled with excitement. With the guidance of the psychic compass, the group once again walked through the forest. Along the way, they found many ginseng, sealwort, and the like. Although they were not very old, it was an unexpected gain. Vaguely, they began to slowly move towards the south. Coincidentally, the place where Sakura was at right now was also the south side of Tiger Hill mountain range. The sound of splashing water reverberated in the air. Looking in the direction of the sound, a long mountain stream appeared in front of them. This mountain stream was not simple. It was as if a complete piece of land had suddenly been split into two by an axe. In the middle was an empty crack, and spring water from the mountain flowed in, naturally forming a long mountain stream. Above the mountain stream, there was a faint layer of miasma that floated up and down in the air. When a mountain wind blew, it could only cause the miasma to roll, but there was no way to blow it away. It was quite strange. This miasma was like the morning fog. In this mountain forest, if one did not look carefully, they would think that it was water vapor that rose up from below. If one did not pay attention and barged in, one might be buried in this miasma. If one listened carefully, one could vaguely hear a strange hissing sound that was covered by the sound of water. At this moment, in front of the mountain stream, a huge black tiger and a snow-white wild wolf were silently watching the scene in the mountain stream. "My king, this is the mountain stream where the white python lives. There are many poisonous snakes in the mountain stream. Many of my subordinates were bitten to death by the poisonous snakes when they came close. When they enter the mountain stream, they would also inexplicably fall down. My king, you must be careful." Naturally, this was Di Shirtion and Wolf King Baiwe. Seeing this mountain stream, Wolf King Baiwe could not help but have a strange look in his eyes. The aura here was very cold. If Di Shirtion did not want to come, he would not be willing to stay here. In other words, the white python is in the mountain stream. Di Shirtion raised his eyes to look at the surrounding miasma. The miasma was not too thick. It was completely formed by the poisonous liquid secreted by the snakes after living here for a long time. For ordinary animals, it was fatal, but for Di Shirtion, it was not very effective. If he really wanted to disperse the miasma, he only needed to roar and use sound waves to disperse the miasma. Baiwe, go and lure the white python out. I will naturally be able to subdue it. At this point, Di Shirtion was not in a hurry. In this mountain range, this was the last stop. As long as he could subdue the white python, he could completely abandon Tiger Hill mountain range and leave this mountain range. For the time being, he could temporarily avoid the impending danger. Evacuating was a plan he had long planned. He had seen through humans very clearly. If he beat up the younger one, the older one would come out. If that didn't work, even the old ancestors might jump out. In the eyes of humans, they were aliens. There was no morality to speak of. If one couldn't beat them, 2, 3, or even countless people would immediately come out to besiege them. He knew his own strength best. Compared to the immortal cultivators, he was still too weak. The things he knew were too little. Just talking about magic, he did not understand at all. If he fought with them, he would definitely suffer a great loss. Therefore, now was definitely not the time to have too big of a conflict with the immortal cultivators. He could not be too high profile. If he entered the eyes of some people, it would really cause an unstoppable disaster. King, Baiwe will do it right away. When the Wolf King heard this, his eyes lit up with excitement. It was just a provocation. Anyway, with the king by his side, what was there to be afraid of? Swoosh! Baiwed dashed forward and quickly arrived at the mouth of the mountain stream. Raising its head high, the Wolf King let out a ferocious howl. A woo! The wolf howl covered the entire mountain stream. Hiss! The provocation in the wolf howl was no doubt like poking a hornet's nest. Before the howl stopped, a loud roar suddenly rose from the mountain stream. Bang! All of a sudden, the water in the mountain stream exploded, and a slender, snow-white figure leaped out from the water. The speed of this white figure was extremely fast, and with the momentum, it charged straight for Wolf King Baiyu. Two lantern-sized eyes were fixed on Baiyu like lightning bolts. No matter if it was Wolf King or Sakura, they weren't ordinary animals. Their vision was naturally incomparably sharp. Others might not be able to see clearly, but in their eyes, they could clearly see that in mid-air, there was a snow-white python that was no less than 10 meters long and as thick as a water bucket. Chapter 35. Awoo! The Wolf King saw that the white python did not retreat. Instead, it let out a deafening howl. Its body flashed to the side as fast as lightning, dodging the white python's thunderous attack. Then, its wolf claws unceremoniously clawed at the white python's body. Bang! Baiyu's wolf claws were incredibly sharp, but when they landed on the white python's body, they couldn't penetrate it. A layer of snow-white snake scales blocked the wolf claws. The snake scales were slippery, and Baiyu's attack felt like it had landed on cotton. The power of the attack was diverted to other places. Hiss! The white python's eyes revealed a look of mockery as it let out a roar. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the Wolf King. That mouth was quite huge. Even an adult would be easily swallowed in one bite. Not to mention the Wolf King, who was at a disadvantage in terms of size. However, as a king, the Wolf King's greatest advantage was his speed. His feet were very fast, and in a small space he quickly dodged left and right. From time to time, he would launch one or two attacks. Unfortunately, the scales on the white python's body were too strong, and it was impossible for him to break through. Baiwe, stand down. I'll do it. Sakura only watched from the side for a short while, and knew that although Baiyu had an extraordinary advantage in speed, he couldn't do anything to the white python. If they continued to fight, there wouldn't be much progress. Sakura directly berated him. Awoo! Hearing this, the Wolf King obediently attacked the white python and quickly dodged. It stood behind Di Shirtion. This is the Snake Valley. This is my territory. What are you doing here? Hurry up and leave, otherwise this lady will eat you. The white python's eyes were as bright as candlelight. When she came out, she had already seen Di Shirtion. Now, she knew that he was the leader of the two. It had to be said that Di Shirtion's body emitted a thick tiger's aura, which was endless deterrence to any beast. This king has come this time to make you submit to me and become my subordinate, Di Shirtion said without hiding anything. As soon as the white python heard that, her eyes immediately shot out a sharp ray of light as she stared unwaveringly at Sakura. The aura on her body suddenly became fierce as she said, "If you want to subdue this lady, you have to defeat me first. If I defeat you, I will eat you in one bite." Whoosh! After saying this, the white python pushed herself on the ground and instantly bounced up. She quickly charged towards Di Shirtion and spat a mouthful of green poison. A strong stench was emitted from the poisonous fog, making people feel nauseous and faint just by smelling it. It was extremely poisonous. Even if an elephant was in the face of this poisonous poison, it would still. Awoo! Di Shirtion roared, and his body shook. Immediately, black demon chi was spat out from the countless pores on his body. It quickly condensed around his body, forming a black demon chi that covered his whole body. When it collided with the green poison, a series of ear-piercing chi-chi sounds were constantly emitted from the middle. Although the green poison was strong, it still could not break through the defense of the demon chi. This was Di Shirtian's only defense. No matter how strong the white python's poison was, after all, it had not stepped on the path of immortal cultivation. It still could not do anything to Di Shirtian. However, this also showed that as a king, everyone had their own terrifying ultimate skills. If I want to subdue the white python, I can only use the tiger roar sound wave. I have too few offensive methods now. Almost in an instant, Sakura realized that if he wanted to end this fight as quickly as possible, he could only use his trump card, the tiger roar sound wave, to have this possibility. At this moment, he also realized that his offensive methods were too lacking. He must work harder in this area in the future. Otherwise, sooner or later, he would be at a disadvantage. Huff! Di Shirtian used his demon chi to block the green poison. He took a deep breath in front of him. With this breath, a whirlpool seemed to appear in front of him, sucking in a large amount of air into his stomach. The majestic tiger aura on his body rose like a tide. His body also seemed to grow by a large circle in an instant. His entire body showed the supreme dominance of the king of beasts. At this moment, there was a commotion in the forest behind him. Quick, it's here. The psychic compass is moving. The psychic needle is pointing in this direction. Everyone, hurry up. I heard a wolf howl. When I saw the black tiger earlier, it was with the pack of wolves. If we find the wolves, we can find the black tiger. A burst of excited chatter came from the forest. Moreover, the people came very quickly. In just a few breaths, they saw that in the forest behind them, the grass and trees shook violently. A few figures passed through the forest and directly appeared in front of the mountain stream. Senior Brotherly, it's the black tiger. It's this black tiger. Yeah, it's not just the black tiger. There's also a huge white python. This wolf also has spirituality. Wow, there are actually 3 spirit beasts here. The people who came out were none other than Princess Chu Yun and the others. With the psychic compass in hand, it was indeed very convenient to find a target. Under the guidance of the compass, the group quickly shuttled through the forest. Finally, when they were close to the place, the compass had a strong reaction. 2 needles pointed in this direction at the same time. When they heard the long howl of the wolf, they immediately rushed here as fast as they could. At a glance, the harvest was not small. Not only did they find the black tiger, but they also found 2 more spirit beasts. For a moment, Princess Chu Yun could not help but cry out in excitement. It's really that black tiger. Zheng Baichuan and Qin Hai had a very deep impression of Di Shirtian. With just a glance, they recognized that the black tiger in front of them was definitely the one they encountered before. Their expressions changed immediately. When Li Xianchen heard this, he immediately smiled and said, "Junior Sister Yun, watch here first. Watch me subdue this black tiger for Junior Sister as a gift." After saying that, his hands immediately moved and he quickly formed a hand seal. Mystic Ice Technique. With a soft shout, a cloud of white cold air appeared out of thin air above Di Shirtian's head. As soon as this cold air formed, it directly pounced on Di Shirtian. One could clearly feel that the moment this cold air appeared, the temperature of the surrounding air instantly dropped by a lot. It became cold and gloomy. White Python, let's put our matter aside for now. Wait for me to send these foreign cultivators away before we continue. As soon as Princess Chu Yun and the others appeared, Di Shirtian immediately understood why they were here. He was not in the mood to continue fighting with the white python. He hurriedly said to the white python in the beast language, "Boom!" Feeling the shocking cold air above his head, Di Shirtian was once again extremely curious about the various Dharma spells in the immortal cultivation world. However, now is not the time to think about this. He stretched out his tiger claw and swiped it in front of him. In an instant, demonic power spewed out from his claw and quickly formed a pitch-black tiger claw. Under his control, he blasted the claw towards the cold air above his head. This tiger claw collided with the cold air. Immediately, a terrifying cold force spewed out from the cold air. With a violent tumble, the cold force mysteriously froze the tiger claw formed by demonic power, forming a layer of mystic ice on the outside. Smack! With a soft sound, it landed on the ground. The tiger claw was like a piece of ice and was not smashed into pieces. However, the power of the mystic ice technique had been absorbed by the tiger claw and was considered broken. What a black tiger is indeed strange. Seeing that the black tiger could actually use demonic power to attack. Even Li Xiangqian, who did not believe that there was anything strange about the black tiger, changed his expression at this moment. He finally understood why Princess Chu Yun and the others kept saying that the black tiger was extremely powerful. Wind blade technique. Although he was surprised, he did not stop attacking. A wind blade flew out and attacked. Di Shirtian did not dodge the wind blade and allowed it to hit his body. It was quickly blocked by the demonic aura outside his body and did not cause him any harm. Roar! In the midst of a low and deep tiger roar, Sakura's tiger eyes had an ice-cold expression. His two hind legs fiercely stomped on the ground. Instantly, his entire body soared into the sky, drawing a series of pitch-black afterimages in the air. He ferociously pounced on Li Xiangqian. With this pounce, the domineering aura of the king of beasts surged out wildly. The strong tiger's aura pressed heavily on Li Xiangqian's body. The cultivation that had already penetrated all the meridians in his body was completely displayed at this moment. The pressure of a powerhouse, the natural domineering aura of the king of beasts, the purple king mark on his forehead was like a ball of fire, pulsing violently. The intimidating aura was suddenly exerted on his body. Who was Li Xiangqian? Although he was the young master of a first-class family, his cultivation was only at the 7th level of qi refinement. How could he compare to Di Shirtian? He had very little experience in actual combat. This time, he came out to train. When he saw Di Shirtian's domineering and ferocious pounce, the usual gentleness on his face disappeared, and he became extremely frightened. Iron Vine bind! At this moment, a clear and delicate voice rang out. As the voice fell, a strange seed flew out from the hands of the princess of the Chu Yun Empire and landed in front of Li Xiangqian. The seed landed on the ground and took root. It sprouted and grew at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, a vine as thick as an arm grew wildly from the ground. This vine was densely packed with iron thorns. It looked extremely ferocious. As soon as it appeared, it swept towards Di Shirtian. It was as nimble as a snake. Roar! Indra roared in a low voice as the black demonic chi around him grew even denser, enveloping his entire body. He also saw that vine, but he didn't care about it immediately. He could clearly see that there were quite a few people here. If he wanted to win, he had to kill one of them with a thunderous momentum right from the start. This was the best opportunity. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.